I'll throw you the softball. It's on. Right now, make sure that's building, not on the fence.
Yeah, that's the.
Because of that.
I don't have any.
Yeah, we should get a.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Thank you everyone for coming, in the public in the room and online. Do we have it going? Yep, it looks like we do. Okay.
Hey, George.
Very good. We're going to begin with a roll call for members on the LSC. No problem. No problem. We'll start with roll call. So I'm just going to call your name. And if you could just say, if you're here or not, Jane Rosenthal. Actually, just say your name and your role. How's that?
Jane Rosenthal, student rep.
Alexander Torzeski, student representative.
David Pence, teacher rep.
Zemnick, parent rep.
Eric Steinmiller, principal.
Peter Tallmers, parent rep.
Laura Yepes, parent rep.
Brad Kessler, community rep.
Sandra Kaler, teacher rep.
Great. Miss Sepulveda, our staff rep, is out today, and she told me she could not be here. We also have a few members that had a qualifying condition online to ask to participate online. So we have them, and we need to all vote them in. So they are Ted Smith, Sasha Zenko, and Alicia Hernandez. Paul Kendrick said he would be just a few minutes late. So is there a motion?
Oh, excuse me. Peter, would you mind checking to see if Okoye is present online?
Yeah. So is there a motion to allow Alicia, Ted, and Sasha to participate in this meeting online virtually? Ms. Zemnick, okay. For a second. Alexander, all those in favor? It is unanimous. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Peter.
Okay. Great. Thanks, Sasha. Ted, just confirming you can hear us since you have a.
I can.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, let's go ahead and move forward. We now open the meeting for public participation, both in the room and online. We also have a section at the end of the meeting for public participation, but if anyone would like to make a statement, we just ask that you keep it to 2 minutes. We do time that just to keep the meeting moving, but we would love to hear from you. So I'll just first ask, is there anyone in the room who would like to come and make a public statement? Yes, okay. And when you come up, please just introduce who you are and then make your statement.
Oops, I get it. Hello, everyone. My name is Brandy Tarver. I am the new athletic director here at Lincoln Park High School. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. I also was an IB student at Bogan High School back in 2009 and 2013.
Very good, very good. After she's done,
That's really all I wanted to say, you all. I really do have to get back to work. Does anyone have any questions?
you know, this is a time in the meeting, I should say too, where we are just listeners. We're not able to like engage, but if you want to just share any impressions or whatever, you can. Otherwise, you know, welcome.
Well, thank you all for having me. You all will see me a lot. I look forward to working with you all in the athletics program. And thank you. Enjoy the rest of
Thank
your
you so much
Thank
and
you.
welcome. Welcome. Thank you. Okay, next.
Quick question before I introduce myself as one of the runners in next year's election. I see there's only two representatives here for the students. Isn't there free winners come the 11th?
Yes, you're right. The third one, Akoya Love, is just not here today. But normally we would have 3 students here. Yes.
Right. Good morning. My name is George. Oh, I meant afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is George Dravilas. I am one of the candidates, and by far, I think one of the most popular from what I can tell in terms of the race that comes for the 2024-25 term. And I am going to do many things for Lincoln Park, such as clean up the bathrooms and the classrooms because of the Aramark contract expiring, and establish a mentor buddy program within Lincoln Park High School as a new club next year. And next year there is going to be the 150th anniversary of Lincoln Park High School as an organization, and I plan to throw festivities over this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Good luck.
Hi, my name is Annie Larcher, and I'm running as another one of the student rep candidates. And basically, my whole thing is I want to like provide more funding and more fundraising opportunities for our athletic program. So glad you're here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful.
I should add, you go first.
Hi, my name is Christy. I'm the new athletic trainer for the school as well. So I just wanted to introduce myself and say hello. Thank you. I'm contracted through ATI with CPS. So if you need any help, just let me know. Any athletics and things, I'm here. So that's all. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Welcome.
Okay, so I'm here to support,
George, could you just, since you didn't use your full 2 minutes, could you just add the rest of your statement, but just about 30 seconds, please?
one of the ideas I had at one point, it was like a brain fart per se, was try and get LP's athletic teams to be televised on the internet. But after seeing all the stuff that went down with college athletics and their television deals, I don't want to do that anymore. There has to be a better way. All right.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, I think those are most of the people in the room. Is there anyone online who would like to make a public statement? If so, just hit the raise your hand button at the bottom of the screen, and then you'll be elevated to speak. One person. Okay, great. We have the one person. Oh yeah, Candace Wolker is promoted now. Hi.
Hi. Thank you. I'm Candace Waltier. I'm a parent of a freshman this year, and I'm concerned about something that I've seen happening on a regular basis over the past year, and that is that my daughter and what I believe to be other parents, teachers are not entering grades in Aspen in a timely manner, which, causes students to go for long periods of time without knowing what their grades are, getting any feedback. Then when it's like now, there's this scrambling for, what are they? And teachers are saying, oh, I'm trying to get through it. And errors occur. And it's a concern because it's a freshman year and we have 3 more years. And I'm wondering if there's got to be a better way. I mean, are teachers required to enter in grades within a certain period? I don't know what the expectations are and what we should be doing in this situation.
Okay, thank you. Just as I mentioned here, we're not able to respond right now, but we have noted it and we will respond either later in the meeting or afterwards. So thank you for your comment.
Okay.
Okay. Is there anyone else attending online who would like to make a statement? I see one hand raised. Yeah.
Voting Field Street. Here. I no longer see the.
I did see a NT Hodges listed, but I don't know.
It was they were promoted to panelists to speak. See if they.
Okay, well, I guess we'll give them a chance to log back on if they drop. Is there anyone else online who would like to make a comment?
Akoya has joined us.
Oh, Akoya. Okay, great. So is there a motion to allow Akoya to participate in the meeting remotely? Alexander, second. Mr. Cottons, all those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much. I think, assuming those online will do the same. Hi, Akoya. Welcome. We're just doing public comment right now.
Okay, hi guys. Sorry for being late. It wouldn't let me connect.
No problem. Glad you're here.
I don't see that person.
Okay. We do have a public comment at the end of the meeting as well. So if whoever was out there and wasn't able to join, if they join later, we'll be happy to listen to them. With that, I'm going to go forward and where next item is to review and approve the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the February 8th LSC meeting? Ms. Semnick, is there a second?
I'll make a second with an amendment
Okay.
that I'd like to follow up with some small grammatical edits to it.
Yeah, sure. So I'm aware.
So I'll second the.
So how do we handle it? Do we approve it pending some cleanup or do we have to table it to the next?
No. We'll just say that it's approved with.
Okay.
grammatical edits.
Okay, got it. So you're seconding that with that. So is boy, I'm really out today. Sorry. All those in favor of approving the minutes with some grammatical edits that Mr. Kessler will make, just for a minute.
Oh.
I mean, there was a content where it said LCC instead of LSC. I did mention to Ted, so I think those are being cleaned, but mostly.
Yeah, no, I told Ted out.
Okay. Great. So one more time, all those in favor of approving with the grammatical edits? Okay. In the room, it's unanimous. And Sasha says yes. Akoya says yes. Okay, great. Ted, I assume you're recording that as well. Oh, great. Okay, so that's that. Our next item is celebrations for Lincoln Park High School. This is a time in the meeting where we take a moment to spotlight things that are going well, things that inspire us, encourage us, things that we see going on around campus or in the broader community related to the school. So does anyone have a celebration they'd like to spotlight?
So every year, Miss Gluns, one of the teachers here, goes through a huge effort to put on a school-sponsored spring break trip somewhere abroad. This year it's in Japan, and we leave this Sunday, and I just wanted to give her props for doing such a great job in organizing.
Are you going to Japan?
I am.
Whoa. How? George, I'm sorry, at this point of the meeting, we don't have public participation. It'll have to be at the end of the meeting. So.
Hey, George, buddy, during the whole thing, anybody who is on here at this time, if you get elected, you can participate, but until you get elected, thank you.
No problem. That's very exciting news for all the Japanese travelers. How many people are going on the trip?
I think it's upwards of 60.
Wow. Okay. That's a big trip. Great. Well, thank you, Alexander. It's great. Any other celebrations?
Yeah, I just wanted to congratulate all the students that are in the play Something Rotten. That I went with my 6-year-old daughter, sat front row. We got a lot of waves from the orchestra, some amazing musicians in the orchestra, and the actors did an incredible job.
Oh.
So there was not enough people on that opening 4 p.m. night, but I'm hopeful that there was a lot of people. It looks like from Dr. Steinmiller, he's going to mention a lot of folks in the following nights, but we were there cheering opening night. It was great. Highly recommend to folks, if you don't go see the shows here, to go to the shows.
Wonderful. Thank you, Brad. Thank you. Did your daughter enjoy the show?
Yes, my daughter was singing the songs. They've started to wear on me a little bit, and it's been played a lot on Spotify recently.
Wow, that's great. That's great. All right. Any other celebrations?
I would several, but I'll wait till the
Okay.
expand on.
I have one I just want to highlight. We are a performing arts school, just as you've sort of highlighted. We have great depth in dance, visual arts, performing arts, and so on. But many people don't realize the depth we have in STEM and science and technology. But I wanted to highlight that one of our wizards behind the curtain, Mr. Hardesty, you still here? Okay, thank you. One of our coaches for the Lincoln Park High School robotics team participated in the state tournament. And last year, out of 38 teams, placed 24. This year, out of 44 teams, we placed 12th. So moving up the rankings quickly. So thank you, Mr. Hardesty, for all the work you do with Mr. Bentley, the physics teacher. It's great to see. And so I think it's just important to realize we have a lot going on at the school in addition to the wonderful arts. And I know in the future, the team, Mr. Hardesty has shared, they're looking for tech mentors. So if we know people in the startup community who know software engineering or design, or I don't know the details, but I think the team is looking for coaches to help. So, Great. Okay, I just realized I should not be interacting, so forgive me. But we'd love to have you in the future. But just anyway, want to celebrate the great work happening.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that's it. So Alicia, I'm sorry.
I guess I'll add myself to the bandwagon here of a Japan trip. My daughter's going on the Japan trip as well. So.
Oh, wow. Very cool. Very cool. Well, that's great for Ms. Lunds and all the 60-some students. Can't wait to hear about it next month. Okay. All right. Next, we have the LSC Budget Subcommittee. So I'll turn it over to our budget team, Brad and Laura.
Okay, I'll discuss briefly the minutes from our budget subcommittee meeting, and then I will hand it over to Dr. Steinmiller to talk about proposed budget transfers and fundraisers. So we met as a subcommittee on the 12th. We went through the New Balance contract. We went through specifically viewing the purchase orders. There were 2 displayed by Dr. Steinmiller, one for the girls basketball team and one for the boys basketball team. Dr. Steinmiller provided a list of the funds collected by boys by displaying it on the screen, and a list of the items that were purchased by the boys basketball team with the funds collected. As a brief synopsis, there was about over $14,000 collected by the boys basketball team. Then over $13,000 of that was already spent on items including airfare and promotional materials, among other things. So Dr. Steinmiller commented that between $1,000 and $2,000, about $1,300 was provided back to LPHS internal accounts to pay back the $11,000 that was loaned to boys basketball to purchase New Balance equipment. So with boys basketball, there's over $9,000 to still remain. And in girls basketball, there's been none of the $13,000 or so paid back from girls basketball. So Dr. Steinmiller mentioned that moving forward, and this was something that I believe Dr. Steinmiller mentioned in a prior LSC meeting, teams must utilize a 501c3, so a registered nonprofit organization, to collect fundraising. Dr. Steinmiller committed that there'd be a communication going out to boys basketball participants this week that would give the date of May 1st that dollars have to be given back to internal accounts. And if dollars aren't given back, then all the equipment must be returned by the boys basketball team. The girls basketball team, Dr. Steinmiller had commented that none of the money had come back yet, but that he was meeting later that afternoon. So Dr. Steinmiller might be giving an update during this update on girls basketball.
The uniforms and the materials that were purchased through the purchase order were returned to the coach. I'm asking that he audits everything aligned with the receipted items so that we can document that everything officially has been returned, aligned with the receipts that come with the delivery. So that is being audited by the girls basketball team coaches right now to compare it, just to make sure we have everything returned. But the jerseys and everything were returned to him, but I have yet to be able to audit that with the coach to ensure that everything is.
Thank you, Dr. Steinmiller. The committee and then public participants to the committee and other LSC members made several comments, and Dr. Steinmiller noted the comments, but that communication still is a major issue, and there's not a strong understanding of what was shared with parents or students at any time. We reiterated in the budget committee meeting that we were focused instead on the whereabouts of the dollars. STLS was brought up, so students in transitional living situations. Ms. Sepulveda commented about a need for a better process for seeing if there's uniform availability and equipment for sports for STLS students. So inside of the committee, we agreed on a process for Ms. Sepulveda and the coaches and the AD and Dr. Steinmiller to be in communication with each other over the needs. And if the individual sport doesn't have an available uniform for the STLS student, then the school commits to purchase the uniform. The uniform, though, does become property of the school at the end of the season. Dr. Steinmiller commented the LSC bylaws need to be reviewed and updated in regards to his approved spending authority. And I think as we get through the end of the year, as we go through internal accounts budgeting conversations, and authority conversations related to student fees, et cetera, we're going to want to review it anyway to see what kind of authority we want to give. All right, with that, the last thing is that $32,000 has been collected in student fees for second semester, so it still seems like a pretty low amount with effort. So I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Steinmiller now for budget transfers.
You got it. Let me share the screen.
Regarding those lines, those bullet points, or do you want to wait? I mean, how do you want to, there was a lot there.
Yeah, I think it's a why.
Oh.
Are you talking
I don't
about,
know how you
are you
wanna
talking
handle
about,
it.
what, are you talking about the budget transfers we're about to be
No,
presented?
the
or-
bullet points.
No, the
Oh.
bullet points.
Oh, yeah, you're free to ask a question.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay, yeah, let me go back. Has I asked in emails if anybody reached out to the Office of Procurement to discuss, some of the questions were, could a purchase order be made without LSC approval? And then, in terms of how much and how's that different from the school check? Did anybody reach out to the office? Like, all that? I think I asked you to do that.
I didn't reach out to the procurement office because I know the procurement rules really, really well, having written most of them. I did reach out to the LSC office because it's an LSC question, and Kishasha Ford had an out of the office, so I haven't heard back from Kishasha. So I know you reached out to me earlier this week or the end of last week. So I moved as quickly as I could, but I haven't heard back. That's my own personal outreach. I don't know if other folks have conducted outreach.
Yeah.
So what?
Well, the rules must have changed since you wrote that. Because, the Office of Procurement made it clear that the LSC has to approve anything that is over $2,500, whether it's a purchased order or whether it's a school check.
I'll comment in two different ways. That one, in our bylaws, we've approved greater authority. So it's worth looking at the bylaws. The other is in what we approved at the beginning of the year, we also approved greater authority. And so whoever you spoke to in the procurement department, I'm more than happy to continue the conversation with you and with that person so that we can get to.
What did we approve in that? I can't remember. What was the greater authority? What was the number?
I think our intention was $10,000, but I think it's listed in there at a much larger number.
Million.
But our intention, I believe, was 10,000, but it's still lower than the $25,000.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm hearing is that it doesn't matter, that it's still anything that's over $2,500 has to be approved by the LSC.
I believe the reference guide actually says that it can be lifted by the LSC. It's just a minimum of $2,500 absent being lifted by the LSC.
Okay.
So again,
we lifted for $1 million. We voted on that.
That's a typo from like the 2020 LSC. It's just a typo.
Okay, but so we didn't vote for Dr. Steinmiller to be able to write a check for $1 million.
I'm not going with that as a rationale. You know? So
Exactly.
even if we did, I'm not going.
Was it that where is that written that we voted for that? Because I can't remember that. Where is that?
We re-upped the bylaws.
Right.
Whenever we voted on it, but I don't know if it was.
Right,
August or
but what is that
September.
vote? Does anybody look back? Because I can't remember.
We
Was
did
that in
not vote
August?
On the bylaws have been there, but they've not changed. Okay, they're just there. I think what we're talking about is earlier with the student fees, being able to spend out of student fees, right?
Yeah, no, and that's what I'm definitely interested and available of being in a conversation with you in procurement and the LSC department. But the question to me is, I believe that we pre-approved as an LSC the expenditures. I don't know if that's what was phrased to procurement or not, that we already gave approval at the beginning of the year when we approved the student fees, right? That's what we've talked about in prior LSC
Yeah,
meetings.
but I asked that a specific question and that's still, they said.
I've asked that too to the LSC department, and that's what I'm waiting to hear back from.
Okay. All right.
We'll follow up with that. Thank you, Brad.
Wait, but I have another one. In terms of the stuff that's coming back from the girls, so what I'm hearing then is we're not going to get that money back after an accounting is done of what we got back, which includes backpacks, shoes, or socks in that. Jerseys. Were there names on the jerseys on the back? We know
No
their
names.
names.
Just numbers, I believe.
Okay, so all of that comes back, I don't know what it all is. I have the contract. What are we going to do with that? Are we going to give students next year used shoes?
Right now, I need to audit what has been returned to the coach at this point. And so it may be where the same jerseys are used next year, but players purchase their own shoes for next year, or they do fundraising to do it. But at this point for next year, that's far in advance. At this point, it's auditing what's been returned. At this point, they will use the same jerseys that they used this year for next year. They will not be in ownership of the jerseys. They're school property. That's the same conversation. If the boys don't return, if they don't use the funds, we have officially used school funds to make a purchase and they have to be returned. But they're going to make fundraising efforts so that they're covering all the cost of it. And then players do get to keep their jerseys.
But in terms of this year and the $25,000, they're not going to pay any, or maybe they will. Sneakers aren't going to do us any good for the school fees that we're not going to get back, or maybe we will. I don't know if the fundraiser is going to happen. So even if that comes back, that's not money, that's used sneakers, correct? And some jerseys.
I hear, but yeah, the stuff would be returned. Yes, we would have them.
But we're not, okay.
We would have all of the jerseys and everything returned. Yes.
The jerseys and all of that. Okay, I'm just.
Hello, Paul.
Okay, great. I think why get those sneakers back? I mean, you're not going to be able to use them again. You're going to throw them out and all of the other stuff. So we're not going to get that money back. As long as everything the audit says, okay, all this stuff came back. That means though that we're still going to be out $13,000 minus the jerseys. And I don't know what that have cost us. Initially, if we would have went to a local place and got jerseys or got a t-shirt and put number 23 on the back. So we're out that money. That's what I'm hearing.
No, that's what I heard.
This
is what I've heard too, is that there's a high likelihood that we're not getting the money back. And that's what I've also mentioned that in the budget committee meeting. And that right now, because my understanding, especially as a budget committee, that we don't have investigative authority.
No, we don't.
And
But this is fact.
Right.
And,
right. So
and the community should know about it.
So my understanding, hands down, is that we are highly likely, especially on the girls basketball team, going to be out the $13,000. And yes, it's very frustrating to me personally. And I know that's frustrating to you, but I also don't know what other information we're getting in this conversation.
I don't think there's any information more that we're getting. I just want to call it for what it is and keep beating around the bush. We are going to lose that $13,000, get it back in used sneakers. So the student fees that could have been spent on other things this year, including the seniors, they are not going to have access to that, nor will we get that $13,000 for next year. So I just want to say on the record, this decision that is already shaky in itself, we are losing $13,000 of public funds of parents that give money for the entire school. And the $14,000 that was collected by the boys team has been spent. So how again are we recovering that, or are we by getting their gear as well? All the sneakers and everything?
Mr. Kessler just stated, like, they have until May to be able to do their fundraising, to be able to pay for it accordingly. At that point, then they would not have to return those items because they would have met the expectations of returning the funds. If we do not have the funds, then officially we own the jersey.
That's jerseys are one thing. All the other stuff is another. It's $25,000 worth of jerseys.
So for the boys team, it would be $11,800 worth of jerseys. That if we don't get that $11,800 back, we still own the jerseys. We would then have to assign a fee because regardless, it's either money or it's the jerseys. But if our money has gone towards jerseys that haven't been compensated, then we officially own those jerseys and they need to be returned.
But it's not $11,000 worth of jerseys. It's $11,000 that includes jackets and backpacks and shoes. I just want to be clear that it's not $11,000 worth of jerseys.
Basketball equipment. The basketball equipment that was purchased in the purchase order that we talked about in subcommittee, if it's not paid for, it has to be returned. If it's
able to use it. Just the jerseys we're going to use. All of the other we're not going to be able to use. We're not going to get any money back, right? Just the jerseys.
I think it depends on the condition of what's returned in the audit.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. Sasha, I think you have a question.
Yeah, I do have a question which actually continues a little bit to Sandra and to Brad as well. Brad, going back to your bull points, the two things you were mentioning were actually that, and I'm talking now about the counting apples and pears for future, right? So let's leave a little bit the situation right now. Let's learn the lesson and let's see what do we do next year, right? So I think we all have the idea to support all the clubs and sports of the school. This is what Sandra is most probably saying. So you're saying that all the teams will get the uniforms next year. If this is the case, I mean, now we spent $25,000 only for basketball. I mean, how to deal, where is this money coming from to cover all the teams? Or we are just choosing one sport every year, different sport, or maybe library? That's, I think, one of the questions. If this is a recommendation that I see here, and I do agree, kids should have sport uniforms. The basketball kids were super happy to have it. My Max gave up volleyball because they have nothing minus compared to last year. So let's plan for future and let's see what do we need, how much money do we need for that? Is this CPS money? Is this money going to get from some other funds? And I'm coming to my last point, which is also yours. Your bullet point is fundraising. I am I think, involved in I'm a treasurer of soccer boosters. Now it is I think that we have a problem. We were very successful that in a way CPS, and I'm not sure that I understand, so Brad, I'm asking you. CPS is going to control or not permit us to use our fundraising methods that proved to be very successful because of. So there is a lot of things we need to solve at the very moment in this 25,000, but also maybe more importantly is to define the steps for future. And one very worrying for me, and I don't know the answer, is, I mean, we were very successful booster, but if we are not allowed to fundraise anymore the way we did, that's really not good. And even not, and we never really received the money from the school. And then the question is, going back to the first bullet point, why soccer didn't receive money from the school? So that's my comment.
Thank you, Sasha. One thing I'm just hearing, and Ted, I see your hand raised, is there's an interest to figure out a solution for athletic funding going forward. We have been funding individual teams. How can we rise the tide to float all the boats that we have at Lincoln Park across? So if that's something that we want to do, I don't know if there's a proposal that you have, Dr. Steinmiller, around that. Brad, and I know the budget committee has been thinking about, strategies for funding for next year. We have the budget coming up in a month. Is this like a special meeting to talk about fundraising? Is it the committee? Do we form something ad hoc? But I feel that this is something that's going to take us down into a lot of detail, but we should be thinking big and thinking creatively. So I wonder, is there a thought you have, Dr. Steinmiller, or maybe the budget committee, about what do we do there? Because we're not going to solve it here, but I do think that needs a lot of attention. I think there are a lot of ideas we haven't explored yet, but going forward, we want to have more money for more teams. So do you have a thought on that? Or
well, I think there's a lot in the subcommittee we have plans to talk about budgeting as a school.
Okay.
Understanding that past processes for budgeting have been with student-based budgeting in the past has limited us to receive any funds towards anything besides salary benefits. What I don't know, and this is going to be part of the principal's report, so I can kind of say it right now, is they're changing that model this year. And I have no clue what it looks like at all. And so it's going away from student-based budgeting, apparently. It's turning into something that I have yet to put my eyes on. So I can't tell you what our strategy should be. I can't tell you how to start planning for that strategy until I actually see what it looks like. And so I'm not worried. I mean, I'm worried about athletics. I'm worried about what this looks like for just running a school to start with. So what we need to kind of pause on, we do need to find budgeting for athletics. We need to have consistency to it. Things I had hoped to do in the beginning of the year was get budgets for every team, start thinking about how we fundraise for it, and what does that look like. Right now, we need to see, what does our budget look like for running Lincoln Park High School in a whole new system that it's ever been. And that's going to be a lot of learning. We need to prioritize that, number one. Number two, once we make sense of that, then we need to work with our athletic director and partner and with our teams and see what is sustainable for right now. I think the point that was just made, soccer has this clockwork. They have it figured out. They have a good system. They're sustainable. We need to not disrupt what works. We need to follow the processes that CPS has laid out. And this came from the audit, initial, we don't have the results from the audit, but the audit is any team and anybody using Lincoln Park High School's name, they need to just tell the LSC they're doing a fundraiser. They need to document how much they've made, what they spent it on, and how much is remaining. That's really all that's asked. So we need to let teams do that as we're figuring out the school.
But Dr. Steinmiller, there is more. Sorry to interrupt you, but since I really heard this, they do have a problem with our app, which is then not in accordance with whatever CPS policy, and we have to do something about it. I mean, this is really successful model of fundraising, and now they're going to kill us even that. So
I actually don't know what that is. At this point, this is new information to me. All I know is that
SnapRise was used, and then basically this means kids are sending letters to potential, well, family members, right? Parents are basically signing and approving this action and emails. But I think there is some kind of problem of exposing the privacy of children to whatever internet nasty world, right? Whatever is the policy that you. So that CPS has a problem with that, and that's really it would be great to engage in conversation with them and protect us from this nonsense in a way, right? If we are successful.
at the beginning of the season, SnapRaise had to go through some steps with CPS to be approved. They went through the steps and have been reapproved to be able to be used. So CPS can officially use SnapRaise. We have to reflect though on what we approved at the beginning as an LSC, because at the beginning of the LSC, we approved that teams could collect, like individuals could purchase jerseys, they could raise money through donations, and they could sell swag. But one of the things with the donations is that if any platform, I believe we set a limitation of how much that organization could collect. That was a us thing. That we didn't we vote on a specific limit that couldn't be more than a certain percentage. I don't actually remember that off the top of my, but yeah, we can use Snap. We can use SnapRaise. It's CPS approved. It just wasn't at the very beginning of the school year.
So, do you have a comment, Ms. Emnick, or no? On this
question.
Oh, okay. I just want to also get back to Mr. Coddins and Ted, and we got to move forward because we have some people who have to leave early today. So I want to get us going, but
my question was just in budget subcommittee, even though I had to leave early for a 504 meeting, I asked about OST funds being available. My gardening club has purchase orders that are pending money being in, and you said that money has now come.
Yep. This morning we finally got the funding that we've been pushing to get OST to actually give us, even though they pre-approved it at the beginning of the year. It's required Ms. Sepulveda as well as myself constantly coming back and forth to this. And this morning we got the funding. And so all those requests have now been approved and are moving forward. So
they have already been approved?
Yeah. The OST, you'll see, actually they're in our, the next thing that we need to do.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Good to hear. Amy.
Thank you for your patience.
It seems like we're overcomplicating all this. I don't understand why the new athletic director can't meet with the booster club and all the parents and coaches and have the soccer team present what they're doing and everybody else just replicate that. If that's working, why can't we do that? Like, what am I missing something here? Okay. So
that's why we approved those three things at the beginning of the season, because that's what soccer is.
So
we approve soccer and what they're doing. They're doing everything.
So maybe we can talk with Brandy and get a meeting before the end of this year, so we're ready to start next year. Ball rolling. Other thing, is it possible to ask the basketball team if there are parents who would be willing to donate, explain the situation, and see? Because my guess is there are definitely parents who would be more than happy to give $150 or $200 for their kid's jersey, and we're just saying we're not even going to ask. So that to me is a big fail on our parts if we're not even asking people.
Talking about the girls or the boys?
The girls. The boys have already been asked. The girls, as I understand it, never received any information. Oops, we made a mistake. We didn't ask. There was some communication problems. Donate. We're asking for this much. We need this much. Would you consider this? And then we're not down $11,000. We're down $6,000. Please.
Great. So is that something that
I think it's a great recommendation. I think it's a great recommendation.
Okay. Ted, sorry about that. We got distracted here.
I think most of my questions have already been answered, but I would definitely agree with Amy. I was going to ask if the girls have done any fundraising or why they're not even considering fundraising. That makes no sense. If the boys are fundraising till the end of the year, why are the girls not fundraising? The other question or the other comment is, are we going to is the LSC going to get a copy of that spreadsheet that shows the flow of the basketball funds? Yes or no? Are we going to get it or not?
I mean, that's a question I think for Dr. Steinmiller.
I mean, there is student information on it. Again, we can block it out. What we do, we need to do for all teams. That's the one thing I want to be consistent with. If this is the request, I have no problem sharing it, but we just need to be consistent with how we It is not the LSC's job. We are over governance. Investigating specific teams is my job. And it's something that, again, I have no problem sitting down, having the meetings that we have, going through the documents, but scrutinizing one team when they have turned it in, they've done everything that they've needed to do. Continuing to move forward with that, I just don't, if we do this, we need to do it for every team. That's just what I've got to be fair to all teams and all coaches and everybody that I am in charge of supervising or who are my personnel.
Would it make sense to do like one more small session? I know it's supposed to happen at the budget meeting, but sit down and go through it.
I will be happy to go line by line through it. But again, I am concerned with some of the communication I have received at this point about individuals being addressed specifically and or addressing this as a personnel issue. It came up in subcommittee. It should not, that's not our role. And so that is why I am hesitant, because there has already been statements about individual people making accusations about them that is not appropriate. And so I do not want to roll in that. That is where I am hesitant.
Okay, but
Ms. Kaler, maybe one more and then we got to move forward.
Hold on. Well, go ahead.
Go ahead, Ted.
Sorry, Ted.
Go ahead, Ted.
So are we going to get, I mean, you could just say, no, we're not going to get the spreadsheet. We can file a FOIA request. We could do whatever if we want that information. We saw it for all of about 3 or 4 seconds the other day, and which is fine. I mean, you can just give us a spreadsheet that says loan to basketball team 25,000, receive 1,300, 27. I mean, whatever that balance is, outstanding, and then that falls on your hands as to where the money is, or we can know where the money went and how it was spent. But the LSC does oversee the budget or monitors the budget.
Yep.
So I do feel like the LSC has the right to monitor the budget because it's part of our duties, and that it would be fair to see them. If it's in a 501c3, it should be public. It should be public. Unfortunately, your argument can be this was in an illegal booster club. So, you're going to have to pick a side here and decide where you stand on this.
I am fine with whatever we do consistently for every team. So if we want to go through every collection of funding and every purchase, we need to do it for every team we have.
But I think this was a unique thing.
Well,
this really was a unique instance.
That's
So
not
I don't think
request.
it's
The request
unreasonable
is for
to-
every, and so I mean, what I'm asking is, are we going to see it for the basketball team? I'm not asking for every other team. So if your answer is, if you're not going to ask for every team, then I'm not going to give you any, that's fine. Give the answer, and people can do with that answer how they feel.
Ted, how about the idea of having a meeting to walk through it together, and you can look at it that way, or whoever would like to attend?
Be good if we could actually see it. I mean, if it's going to be on the screen for 10 seconds.
You want to set up a meeting and I will walk through each line of it. But
I'd like to recommend we do that, and maybe we can have questions answered too, real time, just to move through and get the level of detail wanted with the questions asked and answered. I feel like that's going to be the richest format, if that's okay with you.
I mean, I'm fine with that if we're actually going to have a meeting.
we can set up a meeting right away. It's not a problem.
Okay.
Well, last
So-
time was a big problem.
If you want to set up a one-on-one, we can go through a one-on-one. It doesn't require then having a meeting notice. Will meet with anybody here at the LSC who wants to go one-on-one, go through it. Again, my concern, and this is why I'm hesitant, and the only reason I am concerned about distributing is there's been commentary about individual personnel, and that is not our role.
Right.
And that has happened multiple times, and I can't permit that to happen.
So
Okay,
I think it's
schedule-
important to say thank you, Principal Steinmiller, for being willing to do that. And then on behalf of the LSC, we approach this in good faith. Like, we're trying to figure out what's the right process. I'm a history writer, you're a history teacher. We want to learn from history to help the future figure out how things can be done right. So no one believes anyone did anything wrong. But we just want to learn from it and just figure it out.
So will you set up that meeting, Dr. Steinmiller? Would that, okay, great.
please send me, like, if you want to
All
meet
right.
anybody, wants to go through that one-on-one with me, send me an email and then I will reply to that email with times for us to meet.
Great, thanks.
Just before we move off that, can we get an understanding? I mean, I don't necessarily care if I am or am not in these meetings, but I think other people on this LSC do. So for public record's sake, can we have like a, by when are we going to have this meeting scheduled by? Just to keep people accountable on the dates and times.
If you're available, I'd be happy to by next week.
Before spring break,
Yeah,
maybe?
I mean,
Okay.
I'd like to resolve this so we can move forward.
Okay. I also just want to be mindful. I know we have to do the budget transfers. Alexander and the student, Akoya Jane have prepared a presentation around some student data that's important. He has to leave for a choir concert down the hall. So I just want to make sure that we at least get through these two things before people start disappearing. Brad, I know you have to leave shortly too. So could we move to that, Alicia?
Just some quick comments. Put into this puddle here, but so I think we need to take a couple of action items here. So one action item is to fix this error in the bylaw.
Yes, yeah.
Because this is ridiculous. So let's put it on the agenda. Whatever we need to do, let's get it done by the next meeting. So,
Yeah.
To fix that. And also, I think we should be proactive in fixing the way we use or the way we define how we use the school fees for next year. So even though, we're going to have a new LSC, this would be a good input for the new LSC, that we would have a better structured use of school fees. Because I think that's kind of the root of the problem here, is
Right.
how we use the fees here.
Yep, I agree.
So, and then the other thing is, I know you're talking about there's a new system coming, but I think that's just like the accounting part of it, right? But I mean, I think how we fundraise, similar to what Amy was saying, let's follow what the soccer team is doing, so that aspect of it is not going to change. Us allocating money to teams, I don't think that's going to change. That doesn't matter what the system in the background is. We should be being fair to the other teams. So I don't think that's going to change. The other thing is, have we now established the process for collecting funds from teams? So that it's clear to the coaches, to everybody involved that's involved with the teams as far as collecting funding.
I think the answer is no,
501s
but
or
there's a
anything?
proposal for the athletic director to meet with soccer and the other coaches to do that. That's what I'm hearing. That's not happened yet, though.
Well, one thing is the meeting. The other thing is establishing a procedure.
Right, but I
have
think we may clone soccer.
Okay.
And Pierre, I just have one quick thing. I won't take long. I think most of the teams, just so everybody understands, most of the teams do what soccer does. Most of the teams at LP fundraise and put their money in the booster club. One of the problems that we have is that we approve that blanket fundraiser. So nobody had to come to the LSC to ask for a fundraiser, which is probably also why people didn't close out their fundraisers, because the fundraiser request forms were never filled out. They were never submitted, because we made a blanket fundraiser at the beginning of the year for all teams, for all fundraising. So I would advise that next year, kind of what Alicia was saying, the LSC should not do that, because that obviously created issues down the road. Because I think Dr. Steinmiller is valid in saying he would like to know what's going on with fundraisers and how much people are collecting and people closing out their fundraisers. But no, to my knowledge, not too many people submitted any forms because they didn't have to, because in August, we said you can fundraise as much as you want.
Yeah. Thank you, Ted. I think it's a great point. It's a great point. Okay.
Wait, one last thing. I'm sorry.
Ms. Kaler, go ahead.
I
Quickly,
need
please.
honesty and transparency on this. So the girls basketball team and parents had not been told about any basketball fees initially, and still up until today. In an email earlier, Dr. Steinmiller had said that they were aware of it. What came in were the girls' uniforms. The girls were allowed to keep the shoes, the backpack, and the socks.
Again, I talked to the coach. He said he had uniforms and supplies were returned to him. I asked him to get we have to run everything that was turned into him along with everything that was receipted. And so I have to have that time with him to make sure everything has been receipted. If it has not been, then it has to be accounted for. But at this time, I can't speak to that.
Sandy,
Why-
you
Okay.
stepped out and we made a request that they ask the girls' basketball team to raise money. So
I'm curious why the coaches, it's March and the coaches have not been talked with and you're still having meetings with them. I don't understand this.
Okay.
I
I mean,
hear
the other-
excuses and excuses.
Right. We
and
have
we
a
need to
copy of the
learn
fee
from this
letter.
$25,000.
Why were we provided a copy of a fee letter for basketball if there was never a fee letter sent out or the teams were never asked for the fees? I'm confused because Dr. Or you sent us a copy of a fee letter.
It was communicated to the, like, we had a public meeting. And this is a public space in which we made these statements that it would be brought back. This was that is this is a forum in which we stated, right, if we're moving forward with this, we want the funds back. That's why we're talking about wanting the funds back, because it was presented here. We discussed it here. I know that there has been communication, and I can say that specifically for one team over the other. Why the other one? That's something for me to address with individual personnel. And that is my responsibility to have that conversation with those individuals. This is about governance. We're about seeing the overall governance of the funds. It is my job to address personnel. Please let me address the personnel.
Well, I don't think
Okay.
anybody.
I just wanted to make one comment in response to Alicia that in the budget subcommittee and one of the requests too, but one of the requests that we're making to the school is for the April meeting to be able to lay out just the buckets that internal accounts has been spent on in the past, and then have a conversation as an LSC about where do we want to put the dollars, and then rethink how we want to do student fee letters and what kind of authority we want to give to the principal. But it all starts with us having knowledge about how we're spending, and it's been really difficult to understand that because of how all these budget transfers come through repeatedly. And so one of the things that Laura and I have requested to Ms. Lopez is an accounting for the past 3 years. And then we can have the information as an LSC to consider, do we want to spend $90,000 on sports transportation or not? And if we don't, then we've got $90,000 to spend on other things, right? Or what kind of dollars go to uniforms or don't, or what kind of dollars go to each department or don't. We have to get much more organized. We haven't done internal account budgeting in the past as an LSC. And so I'm just responding that I hear you loud and clearly. The subcommittee hears you loud and clearly. This is something that we've been making requests to the school already, so we can have this conversation widely as an LSC.
Great. Thank you, Budget Committee, for thinking ahead. Okay, can we move to our votes?
I have to run.
I thought it was 5:15.
My meeting time's changed, so I've got to go. But I know that Laura is prepared to talk about it.
Okay.
And Dr. Stein.
Thank you. All right, and then we're going to move to student report quickly. All right.
All right. All right. The first thing up, let me share it so everybody can see it. So these are the budget transfers. You can see everything that is in yellow. Most of these are, I'll go through right now. As we see right here, several of these are OST funds for clubs, for different things that were requested. Now that we have the funding, we can actually move forward with making those purchases. And so that's where you see a lot of the OST funds as they were moved around. The 1,000, for example, even the 1,095 that was given to us, this was actually, it's the debate funds from transportation line to food line to pay for the debate tournament. They're paying us $2,500. We had to use those monies at the beginning. These are things that we did for programs that we have at our school. The things to focus on in that chunk right there is about we have 5,575, the trips for regular position pointer lines, moving it for robotics trips, band, Arabic trips, and other transportation. So we're moving those to transportation lines for class trips. The trips have already happened. This is just how we're moving the funds to use these appropriately for it. Because again, the 575 and regular pointer line money drops. We want to use these funds before we use student fees or any other things for it. You see below again, these are some of our Cognity is a program our IB program uses. They finally have approval for us to be able to use. I know our science teachers need it. So we're moving some funds from 124 to be able to pay for that. You also see that we have like our math teachers needed more of the smart board pens. And so this is moving fund from a 124 fee line to cover those supplies. You do see large sums in this. You're going to see 26,000, 40,000, 19,000. These are required to be moved because they're negatives that happen over time. Negatives happen when a teacher hits their year anniversary and their salary goes up and they're in a specific line and that creates a negative. It's when we have substitute, you see substitute lines in which the sub bucket gets low. We have to keep replenishing it. That's something we're required to do because teachers are guaranteed their benefit days. It's a benefit for them to take. We have to make sure that we keep funding it. And that's how this works. These may be things that actually change within the new budget process that I do not know, but we have to keep clearing negatives. It's a requirement. And so you see that's where the 26, the 18, the 40, the 19, we have extended day. The one to pay big attention to is the extended day, the 40,000. This is what keeps our school running after 3/18. This is all the stuff that when we have our security, it's when we have our any after school groups, if we need it, when we have open houses, when we have our welcoming of our freshmen. Those are funds that we need to be able to do those after school activities that we do all year long for the remainder of the year. So that's where those funds are coming from. And why you see a negative and a positive sometimes in different 575 lines, it's because they're designated math, they're designated science, they're designated differently. And so they're all on different lines. And so you'll have a positive and a negative depending on the line that's available. Again, most of the big items that you see here are to balance negatives or to fill our sub bucket or extended day. Really, the only one that is up for major question is the $40,000. It's how we function. We need this money for extended day at the end of the day, or we can't have any after school programming as a school. Other big items that are on here, you see some of the OST funds at the very bottom. Again, we need to move for some transportation. We have cell tower money and parking lot. That's the 7,400 and the 3,000. That is to move funds for the parking lot, from the parking lot to cell tower for transportation for athletics. We've requested, we've got the buses for our spring sports. Our new athletic director has been focused on making sure that we have all the trips approved, trying to find buses, being annoying with the buses to make sure we get them all. And you see that we need to move those funds to be able to provide those trips. And so those are the transfers that we need to make. Any questions?
It'd be nice to know what something is for. You're giving it verbally, but I think here this is like $500 from OST, transfer OST funds to a delivery line for OST club.
We received $10,000 this morning, for example, for its OST. It comes into the way the finances work. We get money and it goes ultimately into a funding source, like a line. We then have to take it from a line and we then have to put it into specific areas of how we make those purchases. We have to take it out and we put it into a purchase. And so it's not that okay. It's like a bigger OST bucket. They say, here's your bucket. Now you have to put it into a specific how you're using the OST. Is it for transportation? Is it for food? Is it for, and there's different codes. So what you see on the left, all those numbers, to me and Ms. Lopez, they make sense, right? Like because those numbers are the specific coding for like how that money is being coded. So big bucket, and then you have to take it into little buckets. And we have to do that anytime we receive any funds.
Okay. So the budget committee, any commentary on this?
No, just that there is the OST funds, of which we're still yet to receive about 20,000, right? So, but I believe that we've got that coming in. And so we're kind of just being mindful of, what is left in those OST funds.
Okay. All right, so is there a motion? that-
I move that, because of time, we didn't put this to a vote in our budget subcommittee. So it does need a motion and a second. So I move that we approve these transfers. And then.
Is there a second?
No, I just think that we really didn't have time to discuss it because we were really focused on the basketball. So I know that we would like to, and I would like the LSC to kind of be part of this process. So that we all know that we're transparent and on the same page. So if somebody else that wants to second it.
But there's no reason we should. I mean, I feel like, I'm trusting the budget subcommittee, which is how the subcommittee is supposed to work. We all can't be at every single subcommittee.
Right.
So if the people on the budget subcommittee are comfortable with this, then I will second it.
Mhm.
I know
Okay.
Brad's not.
Okay.
Based on what occurred before, I don't trust, at this point, I have no confidence in either. So I am not going to move forward to approve any budgets until
Okay.
this is clear. The subcommittee made lots of decisions that I don't agree with in terms of basketball.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the transfer of funds as outlined here? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Pat, is your hand raised or not?
I am not voting yes. I see a hand on my picture, but my vote is no. I don't know how to get it off.
That's
Sasha, you're a yes?
I am a no.
No, I know, Sasha,
Yes.
you're a yes. Okay, so I need to do the count again. That's 1 from Sasha, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Akoya, are you voting? Are you still on? You see Akoya still on?
So let me stop presenting. I see Akoya, but I just don't
Okay.
see a hand up or anything.
Okoye, I'm not sure if you can hear us, but curious your vote.
Can you guys hear me?
Okay, are you, we're voting
I'm
to
sustaining because I don't really understand it that well.
abstained. Okay. So we have 8 yes, we have 3. Oh, are those also, that was all those in favor. All those opposed, 1, and then Ted, are you abstaining or opposing?
I am opposed. I vote no.
Opposing. Okay, so 2, and then we have 3 abstain. Let's see.
8.
Yeah, and then we have, just making sure 10, 11, 12, 13. So Brad is gone and Miss Sepulveda is gone. So that would make, so we have everyone. Okay.
If you don't mind, can you tell me who's abstaining? Because I need to take these notes. So the no.
Yeah, it's the 3 students. So
Okay.
Alexander, Jane, and
All right.
where?
And then
Okay.
the votes are myself, Miss
And Miss
Kayla.
Taylor.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have 2 no. So I think we need 9.
It's out of quorum. So like this is for principal eligibility, it's a or it's whatever super majority of the entire enrollment. Because we have quorum with the number of people here. I mean 8. We should be out of the quorum of who is present for the meeting. So whoever is here is 1, 2,
So that's
3, 4,
8 out of 13.
11, 12, 13. I think
The
you need
super
7.
majority is half plus 2.
Yeah, but this is not a.
Oh,
So it's a
so
separate
that's
rule.
6 plus 2 would be 8. Well, then it would
Pass.
think it would pass. Wish Brad were here.
I mean, if it
Yeah.
doesn't, I need to know because we stop school after school. That's
Could you just summarize the impact?
we can't pay people after school. I will be able to move forward with most of these things I will be able to move forward with because of the amount they are. And we're required to pay our teachers. So the sub negatives, they will have to be adjusted. The 40,000 extended day, we will not have anything after school. I mean, if you want me to go through these line by line, I will. But for us to stop our schools functioning, I will go through each of these and explain it. I can go in more detail.
If it's a 1 vote margin, I'll vote yes.
Okay. So I think our current bylaws say that we need at least 8 affirmative votes to approve school budget transfers within funds. Okay, now I think it's supposed to move to 9. And that's part of the editing needs to happen with the students on the LSC. So it should be 9. So I think that would give us 9 if you vote affirmative.
I'll vote affirmative.
Okay. So the motion passes to transfer the funds. Okay.
All right, let me finish this out.
Budget, anything else from you all?
Yes, we have fundraisers.
Oh,
Okay.
can I also note about the student fees that have been collected for the second semester? Our current count is at 32,000, so we're still waiting on a lot of collection for the second half because we did divide the student fees into 2 semesters. We are really looking at communication for just pushing those who have not submitted payment for the second semester yet.
Okay, thank you.
Do we know what that deficit is, Laura?
I don't have the deficit off the top of my head, but I do know how much has been collected. It's only been 32. So we'll get that deficit to you at the next meeting.
Okay. That's fine.
Fundraisers are our next thing that we have lined up. So for our fundraisers, we do have football has a couple of fundraisers, popcorn fundraiser. They also have fan gear that they're going to be selling. So they have that proposal in here. You also have a fundraising from Miss Sepulveda for STLS support. She has a fundraiser proposal. And Dr. Luca Macias also has a fundraising proposal. The proposals as they've been submitted, again, the first is to sell fan gear from the football. The other is then to sell double good popcorn. The STLS is asking for donations. I think their request, they anticipate doing that is asking for donations as part of what they're going to do for their fundraisers. And the World's Finest Chocolate fundraiser for the Model Arab League. They have a trip that their flights and accommodations that they're trying to help get funds for.
Okay. Is there a motion to, so this was not voted in subcommittee either, right? So
No, there was also this hasn't been loaded into here. I know the boys basketball team, they also had a they previously, we've approved it, a popcorn fundraiser. In that fundraiser, it did say through the Parent Booster Club, because that going back to that being a Parent Booster Club, we knew it's not a 501c3. I've asked them to re-up that, so it would go to internal accounts to help pay back their funds when they do their fundraiser, so it would go directly to the school. That's not loaded here, but I would like to put that. That we already approved it, but the donation source was to go to the parent boosters, basketball parent boosters is what it said on the form. We approved it. I would like to approve it with the amendment that it's to internal accounts is where it goes to help offset the cost of the purchase.
Okay. Okay. So
Could that be a separate vote? I mean, that's not on.
It's not, I mean, we can do that as let's do this. These 4 are here. Let's move these forward. I'd be happy to present that next.
So you have a motion?
I move that we approve these fundraisers.
Okay, is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, all those in favor? Unanimous in the room. Foya, I think you're a yes. Ted and Saka?
I mean, I'm for fundraisers, but I'm not sure that I understand. So this money raised from the individual athletic teams fundraisers, it goes to one bucket, or I didn't understand that. Could you repeat that and then I could do my vote? I don't understand completely.
Yeah, these 2 that are by the football team, they would go into the LPHS booster, the 501c3.
Okay.
For the athletic booster. That's where the money would go to, but it is separate from having teachers pay, players pay for their jerseys, collecting just donations and sell like, but actually the first line item of the selling gear, technically we've already approved when we did the wholesale approval, but they did put a form in separately and we're presenting it.
All right, so collected money goes to booster LPHC soccer booster is 503. That's what we are voting for, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I vote for that, yeah. For this case of football, but not really for all the other clubs, right?
Well, we're approving all 4 of these in yellow on the screen that we just
But
went.
does it has all for one, so let me see.
They're not all sports.
Pedal sports, they're not all sports.
No.
Okay, good. I then, but what I'm trying to say, I think it's good that all the teams that do not have to pour money in LPHC central system of booster as 503. That if the individual clubs say 503, the fundraising funds could stay on their own accounts. That's, I hope this is clear.
Yep.
Okay, so you're voting yes, Ted?
Yes.
Yes?
I'm sorry,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, great. Thanks. So that passes unanimously.
The second was a fundraiser of boys basketball. We previously approved it, but on the form actually said it was going to the parent athletic basketball boosters. And that's what was stated on it. So it's going to go to internal accounts.
Okay. So is there a motion to approve the boys basketball fundraiser where the monies will go to internal accounts, not to that
So
old booster?
moved.
What, can I just ask one question? Does the basketball team have a 501?
No.
Okay, so how are they going to put it into one? Can you
They're not.
explain that?
Giving it to the school.
But originally, though, they were talking about putting it into a basketball booster, right?
Yeah.
But they don't have a basketball booster.
Yeah. I think it was booster used very loosely.
Okay.
And that's one of the things we learned is that, oh, that was not 501c3. We can't do that anymore. So now the fundraiser is coming to the school instead to fix that problem.
Right.
And then is the school keeping that money, or is it just going into an internal accounts for the basketball team?
No,
so that-
it's to offset the basketball negative. If they have the boys owe, again, it was 11,800. They returned 1,300 of it. This would be to offset the $9,500 that is remaining.
This is part of the repayment plan,
Correct.
basically.
This is their efforts one of their efforts to repay.
Okay. So is there a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Okay, second?
I second that.
Okay, all those in favor? Basketball boys fundraiser? Okay.
Yeah.
Ted and Okoye, yes. Ted, are you a yes?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, so that passes unanimously.
Excellent. I believe that is everything we've got.
Okay, Laura, anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay, students, thank you for your patience.
Okay, so I sent an email containing the presentation to Dr. Steinmiller and Peter.
Just a second. Let me go to the beginning of it so I'm not ruining it.
Oh,
it's the wrong one.
That is the wrong one. I sent that was the one from the Student Voice Committee meeting this
got it.
Monday. I sent you a separate one via email.
Got it. Let me look at it. I got it. 314 done.
All right. So just for a little bit of context before we begin actually going into the individual policies, just for a bit of background. So we as a Student Voice Committee over this entire school year have been assembling and then recently presenting on data from a survey targeting different areas of improvement throughout the school and gathering student input. And then this past month, since we last presented to the LSC, we have been having discussions within the Student Voice Committee on specific ways in which to address those issues. I'll let Jane start with the first policy proposals.
Awesome. So we're going to begin with homework and assignment policy, and we're aware this has been discussed for a long time. So we're hoping with the solutions we propose, we can at least make movement. To begin, we also discussed this with our advisory board. One member is in the room with us, Mr. Lascano. And the first problem was that students have noticed a lack of consistency in late work and missing work policies, leading to confusion. They also complain of excessive homework loads that interfere with outside life and responsibilities,
due to the absence of interdepartmental communication. Our proposed solution would be to attend and present at the instructional leadership team meeting and discuss ways to increase uniformity around the aforementioned policies and brainstorm ways to foster better communication, basically working alongside with teachers to find out what makes the most sense. Okay, you can go to the next slide, please. Okay, our second problem was that students feel that some teachers grade at a slower pace that impends their ability to retake exams, revise work, and identify areas for improvements in their understanding of curriculum before moving on to other topics. This was especially shown throughout our survey, especially with finals coming to an end and the second semester beginning. Our proposed solution would be to work with teachers to stress the importance of timely grading and find collaborative ways with teachers to lower the amount of time between an assignment completion and the release of the score. And I'm going to pass it over to Alex. Yeah. Yeah, that's what we're referencing, because it gives students kind of a feel for where their grade is at. Do they have time to improve?
Okay, so now moving on to health, safety, and security. So this is something that we've been working with the wellness team and Mr. Liscano on very frequently, but students have reported frequent thefts in gym locker rooms, and there's also growing concern over how the cell phone policy itself being implemented within the wellness department could impact those concerns. Just sort of going off of the logic that there is a very targeted place where these thefts have been happening, and now we're implementing a policy that's basically going to lead to every cell phone for roughly 40 to 50 people all being located in the same place, or in the best case scenario within a locker that have been shown to not necessarily be secure in the past. So what we're proposing is just continuing to work with the wellness team to get teachers and security people doing periodic checks within the locker rooms to make sure that there's nobody in there that shouldn't be in there. And then also once budgeting begins, working to earmark some money specifically for the purpose of purchasing locks to put on the lockers in the locker rooms, just to make sure that people can't get in there. And also it was reported that just because of the age and frankly the quality of the lockers, that it is possible for people to just pry into them and just take the contents if people know that there are going to be cell phones in there. So if we do have the funds for it, we're also recommending that we do set some money aside to get new lockers for the locker room, to just in the name of security. Okay, next slide, please. And then also students feel that they would benefit from the presence of more designated SEL spaces in the school, especially in the freshman building, because right now that is an entire demographic of students that don't have any designated spaces within their building. So one thing that we see as actually a great opportunity is this new infrastructure with fences and gates going outside that's going to limit the presence of, people not involved with the school community on campus. That likely means that there are able to be some other infrastructure changes, like the removal of the fences around individual gardens, if I'm correct on that, Dr. Steinmiller. We see the opportunity for those to be specified directly as social emotional learning spaces, whether that looks as, just purely recreational spaces where, you can get games, you can hold outdoor classes, things of those natures. And then also we feel that we can better utilize the courtyards within the schools as, quiet, more private places, potentially to hold group sessions if people feel that they need a community to talk to.
Okay, moving on to facilities. Our problem is that students complain about the cleanliness of bathrooms and hygiene products being frequently unstocked. Last year's solution that we had for this that was very great was the QR codes that were set up. Unfortunately, because they're paper, they get teared down very easily. So our proposed solution would be to earmark LSC funds to purchase frames to be attached to the bathroom stalls, including these QR codes to report sexual misconduct and to report the need for restocking of products to prevent those from being torn down. Next slide. Okay. And then our second would be that students and teachers complain about the lack of accessibility and the confusion around teachers and gender neutral bathrooms. Our proposed solution is to work with the administrators to better communicate the location and policies regarding these bathrooms, just so everyone's like on the same page, and to find a way to prevent these lockings so everyone has a safe space to go. We want to work with the security team as well to crack down on vandalism within those bathrooms through targeted analysis of security cam footage. We're aware there's a very small amount of the student body that does kind of partake in these sort of activities. And while we can't completely erase that, we want to find a way to minimize it. And we believe this is the most kind of effective way to do that.
And also just a lot of people have had issues. I'm not sure if this was specifically mentioned, but a lot of people have had issues accessing these bathrooms because they've been locked by either teachers or staff members or security personnel who aren't necessarily aware of that it's being used by students as well. So really just looking to clarify communications on that to help limit those occurrences. And now this is just some of the more miscellaneous things that we've included. So this was something that was brought up in the private session of the LSC meeting, was that students have reported a culture of microaggressions and racism amongst the student body and some staff members. And frankly, just this is an issue that we're never going to be able to completely solve. I mean, it's just the nature of being a school with such a diverse community. But what we want to do is we want to try to limit this as best as we can, given the resources that and the things that we are able to do. So what we're proposing is that we work with administration to hold racial sensitivity trainings for students, much like we do bias-based harm and sexual assault. Hopefully trying to implement this as part of Freshman Connection so that this is something that's stressed as soon as students enter the school, that this is a school that does not have tolerance for these sorts of behaviors. And then also, one of the best ways to counter this, we believe, is just increasing cultural celebrations through assemblies, through, international nights where people are able to express and celebrate their own cultures. And we believe that that's going to be one of the best ways to build tolerance. And additionally, we've been talking frequently with Mr. G about sending out a parent resource packet at the beginning of each school year to be able for parents to be able to best support their students that are going through mental health crises. And we also think that it would be beneficial to include certain resources about creating a household that does not tolerate, gender-based or racism, race-based discrimination, because just trying to limit this at school and then also seeing what we can do to get proactive and limit these within the household. And then also, this is something that we've been working really frequently on with the communications subcommittee, is that there's just a general sentiment amongst the LSC administration and the student body that we're just depriving students of valuable opportunities by not offering them access to a student government within Lincoln Park High School. This is something that's been attempted in the past, and it just hasn't really been able to come to fruition. So we're, Amy, Ms. Theas, Dr. Steinmiller, Mr. Stuckey, and Jane Aquay and myself have been incredibly active in trying to set a groundwork for this, working with the Student Life Committee to establish responsibilities, working with Mr. Stuckey to establish framework, and just trying to get this ball rolling so that it can be implemented fully for the next school year. And those are all the specifics that we have as more discussions are held and further input is gotten from, students and the rest of the stakeholders within the school. This can be adjusted, this can be added to, this can be subtracted to, but this is what we have right now, and this is how we're going to be moving forward with these. So if anyone has any questions or comments, we gladly welcome them. Yes.
Mine are both facilities related, only because I'm on the facilities subcommittee. Yes. The first one, I believe at the beginning of the school year, we were having issues with student access to the single-use bathrooms and shenanigans going on in them, as well as vandalism. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the most recent communication was that if you want to be using a single-use bathroom as a student, that you need to request a key from the main office in order to use them. I believe that was sort of lopped in with the elevators as well. And so I think that teachers are the impression that all of them should be locked and that students have keys for them. I know that some of them are like labeled as staff only and some of them are not necessarily. I know there's one in the freshman building that I can think of on the first floor that's very much staff, and then the other one is very much anyone. I don't know what the situation is in the main building, but can you give any direction to staff as far as that?
Yeah, so there are some bathrooms they're purely staff oriented. There are some that are open where it's just have to lock it. They're open, so students do have access to them. I think some of the concern of people are clarifying, like in the hallway, this isn't exactly like one down here. It is open all the time. But on occasion it'll get locked. And so we got to make sure we're communicating everybody to keep the ones with the bolt, like occupied or non-occupied ones that are for student use as well. Those should be open for the students to use. There are also some in which it's sort of both area, like different areas in which teachers and students are using, in which there are lockable, and that which there are keys. So Mr. G has kind of worked with several groups to organize which rooms are available without forcing students to come to the main office to get a key, but there are areas in which a key is never required. So we can communicate more of, and I know he's been working with some of the, Mr. G that is, has been working with some of the groups to help clarify the communication, because students don't feel comfortable always coming to the main office.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So then maybe Mr. G, if he's been tasked with this, needs to send out a communication about which bathrooms have which lock policies. Secondly, as far as the QR codes and the cleanliness of the bathrooms, it's something that I've asked about repeatedly at our LSC subcommittee for facilities. I have repeated multiple times in the last couple of months that the QR code signs aren't there, and there has been no action from those above me as far as putting those back. So
Okay.
I've asked, but no one does anything about them.
I think we need to put I think the request, and in their request too, is something that keeps them from being just taken down.
Absolutely.
So they do get put up, they just get taken down. And so I think maybe not a frame, but like a polyurethane kind of cover that,
Or a sticker.
something that's more permanent. We need a more permanent process besides just the paper that keeps getting put up, keeps getting taken down. And that's something that.
Yeah, our concern isn't as much with it. Our concern is just with it being removed. It's not as much about it being torn down. It's just removed in any way, shape, or form. Like if we were to laminate it and put it up, that can still be removed. If it's a sticker, it can be scratched out. I mean, so we think that frames are just the best way possible to make sure that it's secured there. People can't get access to it. And just we're the only ones with control over what's there at a given time.
Yeah.
And can you perhaps put more of those throughout the school?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I mean,
So if one gets
not
pulled
just the
down, there's still
bathroom, but
another.
more open areas. So,
Yeah.
just
And I
and
will
like in every classroom, we should probably have one, right? I know that I have one, but it's sort of small, but a bigger one that kids can just QR it.
I would say a big thing about the sexual misconduct portion is we want the bathroom stall, in a sense, it's like a private way to kind of, if they need to privately record something or write it down, that's kind of the premise of the bathroom. But I definitely think every classroom would be a good idea.
And obviously, we know that this stuff takes money, and we just think that the bathrooms are a good starting point for this to see, even if it does work, that this is just a good test. This is a good pilot program to see if there is merit in doing a frame system, because this is something where we have very clear uses for, and we think that it could actually make a very significant impact.
Also, in terms of the curriculum and instruction portion of, I hear you on that. And I think we need to do a better job, including myself. There's so much some of us have that it's, 150 essays it's hard with everything else, and not trying to I shouldn't make an excuse. It's just tough, but the PPLC, is in charge of CIWP. So we have subcommittee meetings, for curriculum and instruction. It would be really great because then we can bring motions to the LSC, which might be even more effective than an ILT.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'll let you know when our next meeting is and try to figure out a way that you both can be there.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a reason that we didn't come here with like specific asks. Like we want this to be a very collaborative conversation, because we understand that teachers have a very, very difficult task with having grades for so many different classes throughout so many different programs, so many different classes, and different students within all those classes. So we want this to be as collaborative of a process as possible.
And a lot of these requests, again, are talking about some of the things that when admin, like I and the rest of my administrative team are going to work with SVC on. There are things that this will start fitting into some processes that we're doing moving forward, homework and late work processes. We have our IB evaluation. We have to put our our assessment policies forward. And so student voice committee will work with our IB coordinators on documenting and teachers in that process. So it solidifies that. Same thing with some of like the timeliness of grading. That actually is part of my principal. I put that in my principal's report because I know that's a really important topic. So I'll talk about that a little bit more at that time.
Okay.
Okay. Other comments? Great stuff. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know it was a lot of data. It was presented clearly, problem, proposed solution, really helpful, and it was very efficient. So thank you for that. I think we'd have some good improvements coming out of those.
Great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so next is I know, Alexander, you have to leave for your concert. Good luck tonight.
Break a leg.
Thank you very much.
Sing strong. We have Friends of Lincoln Park High School. There was nothing else for student. I think okay. So Friends of, is anyone?
Akoya raised her hand, by the way.
Oh, Akoya?
Are we doing student life also?
Yes, I was just wondering about that. Please go ahead.
Yeah, there's a separate student life. So we have a student life overall from the students and then an update from our student life club. So in student life, the club, we visited 2 prom venues. We visited the White Sox Stadium and the Hyatt. And then most seniors are leaning more towards the Hyatt. We have also selected the prom theme, which is Starry Night, and we also selected our prom keepsake. So overall, from what I've gathered from students, is spring sports have started, which is very exciting and everybody's excited. A lot of students have become overwhelmed with a lot of the testing and just school in general and are really excited and ready for spring break. And that's about it for the students.
Thank you, Akoya. That's great to hear. And it's very exciting. Okay. Great. And just to clarify, the student life meets every other Wednesday in Miss Theus's office or 207. Is that right?
Yes, or it may be virtual depending on her schedule, but it's mostly always in her office.
Okay. Okay, great. Great. Thank you. Okay. Friends of, is anyone on from Friends of Lincoln Park High School?
Don't see anybody on the attendee list. I can make an announcement, just some brief points from.
Okay.
Unless there's anybody else out there. All right. Briefly, Friends of, they have the soiree coming up. That's a good fundraising event in which we're supporting a lot of the efforts we have as a school. That's a big event. It's a fun event. Encouraging any teachers and staff come out at a discounted price. Have parents come out. There'll be other raise the paddle events, but it's a really wonderful event that's well organized that helps their work over the course of the year. Some of the other things, again,
what is the date for that event? I think it's April 20th. Yeah. So like a month or so.
Coming up. The other things, just kind of met with the Spitznagel about some of the bathrooms. There's some funding dedicated to redoing some of our bathrooms to have new the type of walls we have are easy to put graffiti on. There's new texture. We're going to be we're getting in quote these 2 bathrooms on the first floor here and the 2 freshman bathrooms, looking to have all of the walls redone, like repainted with a consistent paint that we will also have buckets of, so that it's not like the swatches of different colors, but we now have normed every color for our building. Classroom color should be, and have the paint codes for it. So we're not doing mixed match colors throughout our building. And requesting, and Friends of is helping with getting some of those buckets for like even in our cafeterias where there's like rusty old AC and heater units, those can be repainted. But the 2 bathrooms will have all of the dividers replaced with a new black edged kind of texture, so it's harder to write on, with a black paint that matches that, so it can also be painted over. Somebody uses a silver pen. Like students aren't here to, Koya, don't tell everybody, people it's only the silver pen that will be written on it. And so they've been making a lot of that progress and doing, again, that's really all I have for them. Sorry, I wasn't prepared to respond.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Great. So let's move forward with principal's report.
You got it. So I'm going to start off. I emailed everybody the principal's report. I'm going to make some, I have one of the first things, I'm going to start with some celebrations and announcements along the way. One of those is I really appreciate our students in organizing our Black History Month assembly. That was student driven. And, one of the things that SVC was really focused on is how do we, keep celebrating our community. We let our students raise their voices and just put on just an absolutely amazing event. So I'm really proud of our students. Also, we hosted a city debate tournament. It's just a great success. It was awesome to see that Friday and Saturday. Our students did very well, went to the quarterfinals. ISA testing, we've had the science testing for the state. That went on Tuesday, and today we've completed that. There are just a handful of makeups that will go along with it. I can't express how much I appreciate Mr. Kanzen. He created one of the coolest tools I've ever seen for teachers to see who would be missing from their class for certain mocks or certain exams, that any teacher can actually look up and see who would be missing from their class for those specific times of the day. It's really just an amazing tool. I also appreciate the flexibility of our science teachers. Last week, there were some shifts from the district on how the ISA testing would be going out. They responded accordingly, were flexible, and made it happen. Thank you to all of our wellness teachers, as always, for mock testing and everything coming up, because they've been adapting their curriculum and instruction as we've been commandeering the gyms for these practices. So I really appreciate that work. Other things, last week we had our drama performances. They were absolutely awesome. Mr. Kessler's not here for like the build up, but basically day 1 and day 2 and then day 3 was like a packed house. I was so proud of our students. It was so engaging, so much fun. And I was also extremely proud of how many teachers and staff were there. They were there in abundance, and it was just awesome. And they were talking about, I'm here to support my student in blank class. And I was like, I think the best showing I've seen from our teachers and staff for really any event. That end, actually, even for the playoffs for the boys basketball, we had quite a few of our teachers and staff show up for that as well. So that was also another great showing. So I'm really seeing a lot of that, and it's really good to see how our teachers and staff and parents are supporting our kids. At this point, we have 480 acceptances. Tomorrow is kind of the day for our freshmen through Go CPS. So I'm a bit nervous. That's a big number, 480 already. I'm excited about it, but we want to be in the 500, 550 range. That's our goal, our best kind of spaces. But I think we'll be good. But it's good to see the excitement our students are having. Ms. Tookie and several other teachers hosted kind of a welcoming event for our future diploma program students. We will have a welcoming event. I don't have the date off the top of my head for all of our accepted students. And as we start welcoming the Lincoln Park High School, getting to know our school, getting to know our teachers, we do have 4 dates set up for our diagnostics to help our students identify like what is the best placement for classes. And so those are already laid out and lined up. We've had a fantastic college and career fair. Shout out to our college career coach and our counselors. I mean, we had tons of universities, but also career options. And I think it was a development over some of the practices that we've been working on. And it was well attended, well communicated and attended, and I really appreciate their work on that as well. So some of the big announcements along with this, the budget structure, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, is changing. And I honestly have no clue what it looks like. My understanding is it's going to be more, it will go away from student-based budgeting into more of a quoted system. A quota meaning you're given so many teaching positions. I just don't know what that's going to look like. As soon as I know, you will know. We anticipate we'll get more information after spring break. In the past, they give us our budget like right before spring break. And so we're spending all our time doing budget during spring break. It sounds like they're actually going to give it to us afterwards, which is kind of nice. So I'll keep you informed. I really can't share more about it. I just need everybody to be ready that this is going to be different, very, very, very different. And we're going to have to, I've been told that we'll have more time where we've had like a 2-week turnaround. I've been told it'll be 3 to 4 week turnaround, which would be an improvement, but that's probably to do some sense making of how it is organized. So please be on the lookout. You'll probably hear more about the budget through the news than you will from me first, and then I'll find out shortly after. So other things that I wanted to be able to engage with and talk through at our last, I'm going to share my screen and go through 4 different things. 1 is update on programming. 2 is on our cell phone policy. 3, a review of some of the grading expectations. This actually came out of some of the student voice committee. I wanted to talk through what those expectations are so you as an LSC are fully informed of what that is about. And then I believe Alicia you asked about some of like data around how we monitoring A's and B's for student groups. I'm going to show you what that data looks like, and I'm going to start with that right there. So at the last LSC meeting, give me just a second. I am not good at multitasking and talking. I can't see this. Here we go. Cool. All right, let me share again. So members of my senior leadership team and I engage with data weekly. And we're looking at different types of data, where it's at. What I shared with you at the last LSC was the semester 1 data. We can't look at all these tabs because there's student information on it, but I wanted you to see exactly what I look at as I review where we're at. This is our freshman on track as it stands basically as of Tuesday, 82%. I work with Mr. Stuckey, who focuses on freshmen on track. We also focusing on like our sophomores, different grade levels. But the question came up at the last LSC meeting: how do we monitor like where our subgroups are by A's, B's, C's, D's? This is what it looks like. I can actually click on this and it'll drill down to the individual student. It'll also drill down to what class. So I can get more information. I don't want to click on anything because that's not, I don't want to get to that student level data, but this is so you can see what we as a senior leadership team are engaging with to have conversations around, hey, what's going on with individual students? How can we support them? You can see the grade distribution by race and gender here. This is week 9. So it's not, this is where teachers, I know this are going to, over the next 2 weeks, be submitting a lot of grades. And I think this goes in the conversation that the students we're having is how can we improve the communication around gradebook as a tool for parents and students to be aware of students are making progress with standards and skills. And so this is a way in which I can help progress monitor individual students. And again, this drills down in a lot of ways. And I'm trying to just be careful not to like, it goes into pass rates by class. There's things that I utilize for it, but I wanted to share what the data was, not necessarily like that semester 1, because this is more fluid, being it's week 9, we'll have different, we're sort of in the middle. So it's not the best point to share out with the whole group, but I wanted to share that we do have a way of monitoring the A's and B's of our specific groups. And so when we get to quarter 1, we'll have more specific data on this. But I want to be careful not to click on too many things that will like pop up student information. I just, week 9 isn't necessarily like I said, the best data, but at quarter 1, yes. And so like when quarter 1 would be a good time to be able to talk about where are we at with quarter 1. We have our April 1st teacher professional day, and we actually intend to bring some of that data with our teachers so they can also reflect on unit planning. How do we make adjustments to standard skills to be able to support our students? But this is, I just wanted you to see that example. No, this is now. This is, well, so we're week 9 of the second semester.
Oh, okay. That was week 9.
No, semester 2. So this is very jargony. This is not meant for anybody else but internally. So, but I wanted to share, like, the question was, how are we like looking, what does that data look like and how are we monitoring it? And this is how we do it. And so you can see it's SY24, semester 2, week 9. We'll get a quarter 1 results, and then we'll be able to, and that'll be more solid, but it's still is fluid because we are not an elementary school. The entire sum of the grade is the semester, not quarters. And we have to communicate with freshman parents because I've had conversations where they still think it's by quarters and don't understand that transcripts are the sum of a semester.
So what does the admin do with this?
So I
mean, you're collecting it and it's neat, but yeah, what do you do with it?
Yeah. So with this, we look at, for example, if we students with Fs, there's actually some tabs where we get more student specific data. We work with our interventionist. If we see students that are off track, we have conversations, we bring parents in. If we see that there's something inconsistent, we try to get an idea of what's going on. We see, for example, that all of a sudden underwater basket weaving has a 10% pass rate, like 90% of the students are failing. We want to ask questions. What is going on? Was there an assessment that the students just didn't do well on? Is there going to be a retake to it? What does that look like in the practice? Because then we go back to the unit plans. All right, how are we planning for Was it a skilled? Maybe the students didn't completely understand. That doesn't happen all as often. There is a, oh, I really don't want to. There's a heat map also, like course data, where I can see a heat map of like percentages of failures in certain like content. It's not, for me, it could drill down to a teacher if that's something I choose to like. It can drill down to a teacher. If we see that an entire underwater basket weaving team of 6 teachers have on average a 90% pass rate, but for some reason in one class it's 20%. Question is just why? Is it something
may I ask something if we are in such a detail, but on the level of individual intervention, it seems to be working analysis like this. But on a more general level, do you see the trends? Where is actually the school going in all the structure of the school? The kids that are obviously performing well, having A's in some, and what is the trend? Why is school getting so bad in math, for example? I don't know. Do you have some interpretations of this on a general level? What needs to be done in terms of academic performance of the school and how to approach it?
Yeah, and that's the best points to do that are at semester quarter 5 at 5 week, 10 week. So right now teachers haven't submitted grades. They will submit that next week. Next Friday is when grades are due for teachers. So when they have grades due, that's the best time for us to see the accumulation and then how are we addressing it. This is really just an example of how data is organized, and that I wanted to make it live. I didn't want you to see, I could have showed you semester 1 data. I don't think that's useful because it's now stagnant. That's past.
Right. The other thing I just want to highlight, just remind everyone, part of this is a follow-up to last month when the big trend, Sasha, was a reduction in fails by like 10%, I think, for certain high priority subgroups. And so that was a big trend. And then the question came up, I think, Alicia, you said, that's great. I'd love to see the breakdown A, B, C, D, and so on. And this is like that breakdown. So that's just the connection from last month.
All right, that's good. That's good. I mean, it's good to know, and then actually you could compare, right? And where do we go to? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and this is a kind of there's a lot of ways for us to toggle grade, like here, grade level. We can do a lot of different things with our tool to kind of see how to focus things. We're having to juggle a little bit more on when we had with 4 administrators, we were able to concentrate a little bit more grade level. We're having to take a little bit more of that on. But at quarter 1 or quarter 3, sorry, when it is over, we'll be able to have more consistent data to be. And I'd be happy to share out some of those trends too. We have at some of the grade level, but we want to increase that. Some of the feedback we've gotten for teachers, they want more data, and we haven't given them enough yet. I also don't want to overwhelm teachers with data. It's working on a balance that I don't think we've achieved yet.
This point about trends. So this also linked to previous semester.
This doesn't, because again, it's analysis of where we are at week 9 is it's more fluid. Where we are at the end of quarter 3 is more consistent because all teachers have submitted grades at the end of the quarter. So we can compare quarter 3 to quarter 3.
And we usually do that, right? We compare year over year. So I think we went through this like a month ago, didn't we? We were kind of looking at the trends overall with how students were performing and there being a reduction in those critical areas, right? So I think this is all very useful information, but at this point, this is just sort of showing a snapshot. This is a dashboard.
Yeah. And that was just a request from last time, is how are we looking at A's and B's? That's why I wanted to share. So I don't want to go too deep into this. At quarter 1 is when we really should look, or quarter 1. At the end of the 3rd quarter, you'll have a better, like, where were we at quarter 3 last year and comparatively? Like we did the semester 1 to semester 1. Week 9 to week 9 is especially different.
You know what our attendance rate is right now?
I do not know it off. I don't.
Like, do you know why our attendance rate is not included in the weekly newsletter anymore?
Ms. Walker was doing it actually, but we can include it again. I can look it up. I can look at, there is a,
I'll echo the comment of the parent from this morning or that's earlier in this meeting about not having grades put in Aspen right away. I think also just the absences are not updated, so parents are really not aware.
This actually came up in our safety committee meeting as an issue, is that the safety and security committee is really struggling with teachers not putting attendance in right away. And I know that Tom G has been working on building out stuff with teachers, trying to encourage them to take attendance immediately and put that in, because what we're trying to put in place then is that the attendance office would then have the information and then parents would get a call immediately. And we can't do that without the teachers putting in the information. So it's like this process of, you know, it's frustration from the security because safety and security team, because then they're hearing, well, no one's helping us when our kids are cutting class. And it's like, well, we need the information in order to be able to follow through with that.
Do they have a percentage of teachers that don't put it in on time rather than just sort of saying a blanket statement?
About,
I mean, it says teachers aren't putting the attendance in on time after class. I mean, is it a certain number? Is it 5%? Is it 10%?
I presented, and this is, I'm kind of thinking about some of our trends. We've actually are seeing a drastic improvement. We had nearly 15,000 one year. I was presenting it up almost 15, 18,000 submissions that had corrections that had to be made because they weren't submitted. And so we've actually improved on that. But we're seeing the teacher, and this isn't like what the topic I was talking about safety committee, because I don't want to like take away from it. But parties tend to be more documented regularly, more accurately, because it requires engaging with it to mark somebody tardy, where an absence isn't necessarily, it's sometimes delayed. And we've got to talk about practices for mid-year, and you know, some people are waiting to the end of the year and forget, or end of the day and forget, or and once the day's over, it requires a lot of work for the attendance office to adjust them. So they've been spending a lot of time of making sure it's accurate, and we haven't not just the attendance office, but like Ms. Sepulveda is not here, but one of her roles is to help with some of our students at the tier 2 and tier 3 events. That's part of her position. And so we've got to build consistent school-wide processes. And I don't think that this is going to be just have to be a collaborative effort. I think that, again, I think we're talking about some of the things will come up in another subcommittee, so I don't want to go too deep into it, but it's not good enough. It's got, and there are individual, when it becomes a trend, it comes up in, you know, domain 4 conversations, or it comes up with like individuals where they're getting like consistent. We try to reach out to those individuals to talk about it. I don't like to make it a big, hey, teachers, when we have 90% or 80% who are doing it consistent.
I mean, these are young adults, and I just keep hearing that it's always the teacher's responsibility here. And we're trying to educate kids that don't even want to be educated. So, I mean,
That's a big statement.
Well, I mean, it's kind of a joke.
To not say that. Can you please?
Wait a second. Meaning,
I
they
do not appreciate that statement.
Okay, maybe it was taken out of context. What I mean is, they're sitting in front of us, and it's hard even to keep them engaged, right? I mean, it's tough. It's just a tough time for teachers. It's a tough time for parents. It's a tough time for students. So I'm wondering what we can do to just get kids more engaged in being in class. If they're cutting, then there's something going on there. If they're not coming, then there's something going on. So that was my point. Not that they're not engaged.
I just want to make a comment. I have to depart for the choir concert as well. Our Vice Chair, Amy Zemnick, is going to continue facilitating the meeting from here on out.
Oh, yeah.
And if she has to leave, it will go to, yeah.
And I just want to hit the items I've got to.
Yeah. Just two things. One, to Amy's point, I totally try and take attendance like as early as possible. I very much get how that is helpful for the safety and security team to get it in. But like also if Tom Sawyer has been marked absent 4 of the 5 days for 6th period, you know, you would think by Friday whether that attendance is done during the class period or at the end of the day, someone from that team is reaching out or you know, some alarm has been made. The fact that Tom Sawyer has missed 6th period every day.
Right.
And that kind of trend can be noticed whether the teacher is taking attendance in the
Right.
first minutes of class or, you know, at 3:18 kind of thing. And then my question was never answered as far as our attendance rates. So I know you said you don't have them right now or whatever, but could they be shared with the LSC and by when?
I can do the presentation and then I could probably find out relatively, hopefully by the end of this meeting. If not, I can send a follow-up email by the end of next week for sure. Then I can organize some thoughts.
Cool.
Let me take a note so I have that too. So the fourth thing I just want to I was to answer the question of what does it look like. So that was the intent of this. Update on programming, update on cell phones, policy, and then grading expectations. Programming, we are on pace of where our plan has been set. Our counselors have met with our students one-on-one. Our teachers have done recommendations. We've gone through the week of making sure that anybody that was missed, we're doing the follow-up on it. So that when we get back from spring break, teachers will review the student course requests that students have already put into Aspen, the counselors have met with, just to double check that that's aligning with the recommendations and the processes. This will also be when teachers will submit their preferences. And there'll be time built into the PD on April 1st for teachers to do the preference and to review the students' selections. We'll then get lists of courses and start working with chairs. I already have a meeting set up with every single department chair to review their requests for courses so we can start moving that forward. So we're where we need to be in our program. Hopefully leading up to where the budget comes. And again, I just don't, normally I would say this informs student-based budgeting. It doesn't anymore, but I still want to have all the information in hand to counter whatever the budgetary structure looks like. And I will keep you updated as we progress with that. For cell phone policy, I shared, you saw the communication that I sent out to the teachers in a timeline. You know, I've got some good recommendations, even met with the ILT to talk through some of those processes too, to how to increase the communication around it. You know, as it goes through, this is a pilot Q4. For the most part, about majority of our teachers want to see a level of pilot rolled out Q4. There were a handful that wanted it to be at the very beginning of the year. But as a whole, that was, as a group, we kind of had surveys in our groups. Groups want to see something moving forward with it. So we've laid out two things. One, what that could look like in the classroom, and two, the response to that. And what I mean, I'll just show you because then it's easier. Give me a second.
For the choir program.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. You can vote.
Anybody else?
Or over. Well, we have people online, right?
7, 8, oh, we're still.
Second, sorry.
You just looked at the thing you said?
Yeah, I was just gonna bring it up. So everybody can see what I'm talk to something specifically. And we have 2 people online too that aren't. So this was sent to everybody, so please just review it. It talks about the escalation of the offenses and how it goes. That's the thing I want to make sure that there's also some gap. If there seems like something is not working, how do we raise the alarm? Like, hey, I've done these steps, but I'm not getting the response from Dean or something. How we have a way to monitor it. The things that I really want to emphasize in this timeline that are really important, again, are going to be having the time to talk to students. I know Student Voice Committee, we're going to talk through some of the details. It's also some of the things they talked about, like what are some of the unique situations? How does maybe wellness look different from a classroom? What resources are needed for that? We will have assemblies on the 4th and the 5th, parent information sessions on the 11th. The full plan will be April 15th. The communication will be from the 1st to the 15th. Teachers will, and I'll share this with I haven't been able to talk to the teachers first about it, so I'm a little bit hesitant to like talk in a public setting about it, but for the most part, teachers will engage with moving forward with, are they going to use like the shoe pockets? Do they want to keep them just in bags? Do they want to just do the stoplight system that we've had in place? Do they want to do a combination of the both? Or do they want to do something they already have established and we don't want to rock the boat? Some people have phone spas and it's really working. So we're not going to force something on people without them having choice and making a decision how to move forward. And then also every week, I'm going to expect Tom and the team to audit. They're going to go around, they're going to peek in rooms. Are we seeing phones in the pocket room? Are we seeing phones in this to see what is working? There's going to be surveys after week 1. There'll be surveys midway through and survey at the end for us to really learn what is the right fit for us. And we had some really good conversations with our department chairs around this about what could be some of the obstacles and then what are some things we need to work through. And so I feel like we are in a good position to move forward and really in a good position for the start of the school year to have a solid phone policy in place. So this is the phone policy that I won't go deep into the next one. But this is coming from the Student Voice Committee, as their top point was kind of talking about grading expectations. What does that mean and what does that look like? As an LSC, I have one request that I really think is important. Going back to something I stated earlier, LSC is about governance. I am the CEO ultimately of operations and instruction and what takes place at that level. If the LSC gets concerns about a specific teacher, it is not the LSC's job to respond to that. The response from our LSC I would ask is please ask that parent to talk to the teacher first. Secondly, if they're not getting a response from the teacher, to talk to the assistant principal who supports that teacher. If they're not getting a response from the assistant principal, escalate it to me. If they're not getting a response from me, escalate it to the network. That is the next level. The local school council does not engage with that individual teacher. And so if their teacher is not meeting that, what the parent feels is that it is not getting a response, is not getting a response from the teacher, the assistant principal, me, the network is the next level.
Not the LSC.
Not the LSC.
I don't understand. Can explain
The
it.
LSC is not responsible
But what's
for.
the context again? What are we talking
If
about?
there's an issue with a classroom, I'm going to give an example. A teacher has only submitted 3
Oh,
grades
okay,
in
okay.
Aspen for that, and they've talked to the teacher and aren't getting a response, and they're concerned about their child.
And they email the LSC, right? Is that what you're saying?
And they're emailing the LSC. That
we shouldn't respond.
That's not the chain. They
Yeah.
go back to the chain of must go. Please make sure you contact the teacher. If you aren't going to go to the assistant principal, if you haven't got it from the principal, then go to the network. I'm not trying to elevate everything to the network, but they are the ones who can look at the data and look at the grade book and look what's going on, make sure I'm being held accountable to be responsive to it, and they can talk specifically about teacher A. But this is not the forum for it. And I'm not saying that there aren't expectations. And so what you as an LSC should hold me accountable for, what are the policies and procedures? I just laid out how you can communicate to how to a parent can get a response if they feel like they're not getting a response. But I also want to make sure that you're aware of what the policy is.
I have a little bit of an issue with that because if our job is to oversee you, I know the network's job is too, and this is where it's difficult because you have 2 bosses. If you aren't being responsive to our constituents, we deserve to know that you are not being responsive to our constituents, and we should be able to hold you accountable for that.
And I hear what you're saying, but also I can't reply. I can tell you I've been communicating with I can't go into the details of what is going on with the teacher in that situation. I can't go on. I can tell you I've been responsive to the parent.
I don't care about the teacher. I care about you.
Got you.
Your job is to make sure the teacher's responsive. My job is to make sure you're responsive.
Correct. That is absolutely fine.
So, but if a parent is emailing the LSC mailbox and saying, I emailed the teacher, didn't get a response. I emailed the assistant principal, didn't get a response. Emailed Steinmiller, didn't get a response. Do we then tell them, well, email the district too?
Yes.
And us.
Yes.
So, because I want to know if you're not responding.
Right. But I can clarify that I have responded to you, but to address the specific issue will require the network. Like if they're.
It really should require you.
It does, but it shouldn't go to that point.
Right.
And but I'm just saying that is the next step, because I can't report out and say, by the way, teacher A has done all this stuff. It's now updated. Like I can't reply. You'll never get that reply about that specific teacher. And I know that I'm going to give you an example. I know communication has come to the LSC stating specific teachers' names. I can't reply to you that has been addressed with those individual teachers. That's not
No,
But-
but you can reply, I am handling this with the parent,
So-
period, end of story.
Correct.
Like,
So let-
that's all we need to know.
Let me, when I get through the rest of this part, you'll kind of understand the next steps to it. But I just wanted to communicate the escalation of where a parent, because the network can then talk to them specifically about their child and that teacher and the principal and the assistant. They can talk differently than an LSC member can. So what I'm sharing with you right now is the process. So we have a handbook. Our handbook goes out to our teachers. We go over this at the beginning of the year. In the handbook are the grading standards and expectations. In here is linked to the CTU and CPS collaborative document on expectations around grading. It is very clear. And so I have it right here, and I can make sure that you all have access to see that actual document. It looks like this. You know, it's professional grading standards and grading practices, guidelines for Chicago Public Schools. And so this is something that is expected of all teachers to follow as we're doing grades. Here we go. And this is something that as an LSC, we can respond to, but also of what these policies and procedures are, but also with Student Voice Committee, some of their concerns that they had of what does this look like? In this document, and it is online, this is a public document you can look at, but on here you can see the frequency, the expectations around assessments, formative assessments, summative assessments, and the frequency. For the most part, grades are to be entered on a weekly basis, at least one assignment a week. So at this point, we're at 9 weeks. There should be at least 9 assignments in a grade. There are instances in which we have a shortened week that's like two days. Then that doesn't count according to this guide. But there should be about one assignment a week, and it should be kept up in frequency. And so when we talk about if we get about a month behind, we are way behind in our communication with students and with parents, and that's why we ask that it is updated regularly. When going back to the question like Ms. Emnick was bringing up, if teachers aren't, that is my responsibility, also my assistant principal. So my assistant principals pull a report. We look at anything over 2 weeks. Emails go out to those specific teachers. It's not fair to send this out a blast all teachers. It is a professional responsibility, but we try to reach out to individual teachers when they are not keeping up with grades in a timely manner. There are grades that haven't been updated since January. That falls onto two things with the teacher. That falls onto their professional responsibilities and their evaluation, and it responds that they have to be responsive, or it gets escalated through potential disciplinary action. And that is the response, and that is my response if my assistant principal is not getting the progress that needs to with keeping grades up to date. Teachers must also, if they have their categories, you also have categories that must be updated. So if I have a category with 50% of the grade, you can't just put one assignment in. You have to have one by progress report and at least one by the other semester. This is all in these guidelines. So there are some things I think we need to revisit for the individual people who are not doing this. I know majority of our teachers are doing this on a regular basis. I don't think it's fair to say, hey, teachers, during our next PD, let's walk through everything like that are meeting it. But there are individuals that we have to keep addressing that have demonstrated inconsistencies with it. So we'll send some friendly reminders based off of some of the student voice conversation about increasing that frequency. And 2 weeks is 2 weeks. If you turn something in, it's a long essay and you have a lot of things. Sometimes it does take more time. But if you're not giving feedback to a student 2 months till 2 months later, they have no opportunity to adjust and build off of the skills and the feedback from it. These are just practices around what assessment is about. This will also go into our IB policy as we really make this more concrete for all of our teachers. So there is a response. That is my response as a principal to make sure people are doing this. But I do ask that in some of those instances where a parent does email the LSC, they have yet to actually reach out to me. They have not reached out to me. They have not reached out to the teacher. They have not reached out to anybody else. And so please forward that email to me because I can look it up and see I have not received communication from that individual. and I can have a conversation with them. That's also the chief knows that too. And that's why I asked that you escalate it, because you may not be getting the complete information. But I can't come to you and tell you, guess what? That parent actually never sent me an email, because that's not also not, I can say there is been effective communication. So I want us to be on kind of on the same page with this of expectations, how to respond to it, but also this is how it should be. And so if you have one assignment where 60% of a grade, that is wrong. That cannot happen. And it's my job to make sure that I work with that one individual, because again, I really want to give props to our teachers, because the great majority of our teachers and predominant like critical mass for teachers are doing this highly effective job of keeping up with assessments and giving feedback to our students. So I do want to emphasize that too. Cool. And we student voice committee will engage with us more. And then Mr. Konzen and Ms. McCormick and Ms. Tookie, when we do in our policy for IB, this will be very clear, because this is one of the things that we need to make sure is published and clear to all people with this expectation. That's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, we are here. I guess new business item. You did that. Are there, I can't see because I'm getting old.
I'm not, let me get back to it. Sorry, I'm still.
Are there questions from any of the LSC members on Principal Steinmiller's report?
What is that? Say that again. A Q&A we haven't responded to because it's not fair for those who are in the audience. They can't ask questions throughout it. So that was something we said at the beginning of the year.
There are people who chat things. That makes sense.
Is Ted still on? Ted, is there any old business from the previous meeting?
I don't think so.
Okay.
The AB thing was actually part of it.
Okay. Okay. Athletics update, spring sports overview, any coaches needed, any vacancies?
I will give you a quick one. Our AD has started. She is working. I think I can make this public. Okay, good. She is working with Mr. Liscano. Mr. Liscano, having previous experience being our athletic director, he is helping and support as she's kind of getting caught up, but also start thinking ahead. I'm thinking about what does that look like at Lincoln Park High School specifically, but also with his experience outside of the district. Mr. Savage is he is a previous AD at a outside suburban school, was an athletic director for a period of time. I've kept his job here as a teacher, not AD, but he has really great insights into what that role looks like for building systems. And he's partnering Ms. Tarver with a mentor at a different school, and someone who has gone through similar experiences from where she is at to where they are at to help support. We're looking at a handful, so I don't want to call it who the mentor is yet, but I think it'll be a good partner. We have time and designated after school in our extended day for Mr. Liscano and Mr. Savage to support, as Mr. Liscano more in the role of kind of like a not long, like I don't want to overcommit things, but like in the athletic kind of coordination and helping with that work. Mr. Savage is specifically for like getting our handbook where it needs to be, getting some of the other things. Because it's a day-to-day kind of churn. The second thing with that is then filling the positions. We have offers to all of our head coaches. I do see Miss Tarver sending consistent communication to onboarding for these coaches. And it is a separate onboarding system than teacher and staff. It's completely separate. You have one person basically for the entire district doing this, and it is not effective or efficient. But I see her consistency. She asks what they're missing. She goes to the coach, and she's been working with them to get them onboarded. And primarily it's she's helped create some infrastructures of having, like, we have a principal of another school is actually volunteering to help with lacrosse so that they can keep moving forward. And then the coach can be there as a volunteer 2 or volunteer 1 status because that CPS employee is there. So we have things for the teams to be moving forward. It is by no means ideal or where we want it to be, but the teams are able to move forward. Ms. Tarver has already been focused on our AD has been focused on finding additional practice space. So we do have our space on diversity. We are able to use a little bit more of Oz Park than we have been in the past. And Larrabee Field, south of North, is a big open field in which we are now having practice. So she's been able to expand our areas to be able to do practice. I know that was a controversial that created some division. There's no division around it. We have our lacrosse teams. Our football team will be practicing there in the fall. So our multiple teams can have practice spaces, and it's a large space. It is being resurfaced. There'll be a new track put around, and our track will be able to use it. We've got dibs on it. And so we got dibs get in front of it. And then we also are going to build partnerships where we are helping take care of it. And then also supporting then the 8 elementary schools that Manir is right there to help do some like camps and different things, utilizing those spaces. So she's already got some plans enacted. She's been on the job like 2.5 weeks. First week we hit her. I'm gonna be real. We hit her so she could actually catch up. And so that she's been really churning, and I've seen her responsive to emails and requests. I saw a soccer need and she responded within an hour. That's not the turnaround time that should be normed, but I see that responsiveness, and I'm really impressed with some of the initial steps. But again, that goes to the support that Ms. Theus has provided, Mr. Lascano's provided, Mr. Savage has been providing, and just as a team to make sure that we can move forward with our programs.
Any vacancies?
No head coach she's thinking of the fall. There are vacancies in the fall. We don't have a wrestling coach. We're trying to look for a wrestling coach. And there may have been one more for already posting some of the fall sports, and I may not have the fall sports off the top of my mind, but for spring, we're in position with a mixture of volunteers, parents, and whatever to have, and head coaches just needing to be on board.
So for spring sports, all spring sports are go.
Yes.
Okay.
Badminton is not.
I played in high school. It's a fun
A
sport.
lot of our students are like dedicated to badminton and really upset. So, but we need it. That's something we'll be pushing on. But yeah, that's the athletics update.
School reports, PPLC.
I have nothing to report. The last time that we were supposed to have a PPLC meeting, the special LSC meeting replaced it. Right now, we're tentatively scheduled to have a meeting on Monday, but there's back and forth about, I didn't know. Yeah, there have been recent communications about whether or not enough had been done. But so I think we're going to meet on Monday.
No, I appreciated everybody's response. So let's do that. Yeah. I just have to send it out tomorrow. Yeah.
We're meeting on Monday. That's it for now.
No PPC, I don't see. Is anybody online? PPC, great.
We have a meeting coming up April 1st.
IB, no one, great. LSC subcommittee. So the first thing to discuss, one of the things that Ms. Sepulveda brought up was making sure that we have some map for all subcommittees. So a lot of subcommittees are meeting, we're meeting consistently, but maybe not posting minutes, not sending the agendas are being posted, but they're not being blasted. So one of the things that I think Peter, I know, wanted us to discuss was what makes the most sense in terms of communication around these things. So we are not blasting the community every week with another LSC meeting here, another LSC meeting here. Is this something we just want to put in the weekly newsletter and then people can see that? Just kind of brainstorming what makes the most sense. Also, where we could potentially house those minutes. Should they be on the website for people to see, which I think seems to make logical sense. Like just have another drop down for each. Okay. And then people can just access that like they access the minutes for the LC.
I know Peter did send out the kind of standing times for all those subcommittees. I just editing a correction. The facilities is the second week, the Monday, the second week, and the budget is the Tuesday, second week. I think it said third week. Just to clarify that. But I think we can have it consistent just and post when those meetings are on the webpage too.
Maybe on the internal calendar too, so that faculty, staff can see it.
You'll do that?
Yeah, I mean, just to have more transparency, I think is important.
How are people feeling about communicating out the LSC subcommittees? Do we want that to be in the newsletter? Do we want it to be a separate email every time there's a new committee, which is at least 4 committees a month on top of our LSC meeting? So that would be 5 separate emails sent from the LSC saying, here's another meeting, here's another meeting, here's another meeting.
Well, how are the minutes shared from the previous meeting? Could we put that all together so you have all of the minutes for the main LSC meeting and then also for the subcommittee meetings?
Right now, they're shared, they're just posted to the website because they have to be approved the month after. So we could link to the website and say meeting minutes are here. The question is like, how are we sharing each month's meeting? Is the calendar and enough for people? And it just says check the Google link. I think people do get desensitized to multiple emails that are coming out that seem to say the same thing. And so they end up not even reading the ones that actually have important value. But
I think the teachers like to see the meetings and what's going on in them. I don't know if the community cares, but I do think the teachers like to see what's happening at the subcommittee meetings.
Like when we send the agenda of the LSC meeting, include that most recent set of minutes in that.
That's what I would suggest.
The only issue is, for example, if we have facilities on Monday of the week of a LSC meeting, we have budget on the Tuesday of the week of the LSC meeting, and we need to be posting the LSC meeting agenda within 48 hours of a meeting taking place anyways. Someone like Brad then has many minutes to turn around and publish, or at least be ready to be viewed by many eyes quite quickly. So that seems tricky logistically, but
budget, I mean, we could try to do facilities to week one. I think the intent for those two meetings, because so many things are changing with that. Like budget is sometimes we chose Tuesday because it gives us then the close amount of time for somebody. I have a fundraiser. If we do it a week in front, then we don't have that fundraiser proposal. But yeah, let me.
We have
I
a
hear what you're
KP
saying.
meeting the first week of the month.
So maybe we could do like facilities that first week instead. But we can talk. We can talk as
Yeah.
members.
yeah,
And maybe this is something that, overall, it took a while to kind of get those standing meetings on the calendar. And now I think we've got it all set, but it's different stuff, but how we share the meetings. But yeah, for budget, we always try to do it closest to the LSC meeting. So we have the most recent information that we, then inform.
so maybe we try some different things and see what works, like where we want to start. But do we want to start with like blasting every meeting or just including it in the newsletter as like an LSC section? Here's the link, here's the upcoming meetings.
I mean, it could be, you could have,
and
if it's standing times, we could just publish the standing times in a newsletter. I mean, it could just be.
They're doing a LSC section. I mean, it makes those who are curious to actually see that need to go to it. Maybe those who aren't as aware of it yet that that's a neat gloss over. But it eliminates some of the turnaround times for making minutes. I don't know. Yeah, that could be a start and see how it goes. We still have communications.
Yeah, sort of. Sort of was me. Okay, do we need to, it says vote to require LSC subcommittee to be communicated online. So I guess we're gonna we don't need to vote on that.
Maybe we table that because I don't know if I think we practice some things.
It sounds like we're gonna add it to the newsletter first, see how it goes, and then take it from there. And all minutes to be posted, all meeting minutes and agendas will be posted on the website under the LSC. Okay. Right.
If we feel it, we need to go to a vote, we can always put it add it to the agenda again if it feel like, hey, we need consistency by voting for it. But I think let's try some practices that work.
Okay. Safety and security, that would be me again. We, at our safety and security meeting, we discussed the cell phone policy, which you addressed. We discussed the fence situation and where we are with that in terms of helping to ensure that kids are safe and secure. Did we have an update on?
No, we have a vendor that came out, looking at, there's a gate, like the gate will be at that end, and looking at the options for what the fence would look like on this side, so that 101 would become our school day door. So a vendor came out this week. I think that was on the facilities kind of update, but yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. All right. There's a lot of, there's overlapping. Also, we did discuss the attendance and the tardies and the lack of detentions and the frustration with the follow through on that. So I know, Ms. Theus has that everybody's doing more jobs right now, but it is falling by the wayside, and it is definitely a concern of the committee as well as teachers in terms of the number of kids that are missing, skipping classes, everything like that. I think those were the two big kind of takeaways from that meeting. So we'll move on to community relations.
Great. Yeah. We've been elevating
into the mic.
Elevating some of the good things happening at the school. Like we got the musical and the Alderman's newsletter this past week. Hopefully brought some people out, getting them to raise the college career night on social media. So we're just looking ahead at the calendar and anything we can do to get the word out. We're aiming to do, and then also we want to work with you on trying to get ahead of with the gate coming up and the closure, just figuring out the best strategy for how we kind of bring the community along and manage that. A lot of
And I didn't give an update. I have met with several of the community organizations, especially I'm gonna mess it up. Lincoln Park, Lincoln
Old Town.
Yeah, but also Lincoln Central, the president of Lincoln Central, to kind of talk through that. We have kind of a plan for communication once we get an idea of what it actually looks like and the impact it will have. So there are some plans with some of those neighborhood associations to engage.
Principal evaluation, we do have to do another evaluation. It is due in May, which is coming up quick. Peter would be happy to assist someone, but he is looking for someone to really take this on and kind of chair it if they can. So if there's anybody interested, please raise your hand.
Do you hear me or not?
Yeah, go ahead, Sasha.
Okay, before that, I didn't, for the fence, and then this, what you were talking about. Could we see designs? I mean, there must be some kind of architectural proposal for the intervention, right? For this fence, or this is not that kind of an activity.
Put that on the agenda.
Yeah, they came out this week to look at the space to create a proposal. So there hasn't been one of what it looks like.
So it's still not designed, but in a moment when they have it, we will of course have our ability to see it, right? When the plans are done.
Yeah, I mean, definitely we will engage the LSC and what that looks like. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Amy, sorry. So you continue with the last one.
Okay, so again, anybody raise their hand to help with principal evaluation? Hands up.
Teachers can we?
No.
Yeah, so it'd be just so you know, yeah.
No. You neither of you can share. Right. It would have to be a parent or
I
community.
think I got an email. Was that the survey that,
Teacher.
but that was for teachers, right? And staff?
I
not
just
for
got
parents.
the ball rolling again.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
I
so
thought I should disregard that one, but okay.
look,
No, yeah.
so since Peter and Alicia left, looks like Alicia gets to do it because she's not here. So she
Right.
gets volunteered for.
Alicia.
Right. Okay. Communications is me. I have, it's sort of become communication / student life-ish stuff. So we met again, really trying to hammer down what this potential student government would look like, and then really focusing on that and clubs. So like Alexander has said, we've got some kind of prototypes of what we think this would look like, and letting the students really take the reins on this because it would be great if it was a bottom up rather than a top down process. So they're working on that. Facilities.
I wasn't present at the meeting on Monday.
I was sick, but I know what happened. So facilities, again, major concerns, obviously, coming to the end of our contract for custodial issues, how we're supporting that. Several of our current custodians are transitioning over to CPS employees. We don't know what the management system structure looks like yet, but a beneficial of CPS employees, we actually are able to get more increased communication because there's increased expectation that I can connect with. If they're through other company, it's a secondary person I have to go through. And also empowers Miss Veronica Hurd as the lead custodian to support other CPS custodians. That was kind of some division that we've had. So we just need to make sure we're maintaining our focus on that. From a facility standpoint, we have coated all the paints for all our room spaces. And so working with Friends of to get buckets of it because CPS doesn't supply paint for schools. And so we will be able to keep like consistent painting for all our rooms. There are facilities concerns that we as an LSC need to be aware of. I'm working with facilities, but I need they've been on my agenda for honestly years. And I've been bringing it up and bringing it up and bringing it up and bringing it up and bringing it up. One of those was with our stage. And so we know it's an archaic lighting system. We know it's an archaic system. We know it's over $150,000 to replace the light system itself. We had performances last week while adjusting, and thank goodness our team was following appropriate safety procedures. One of our lights fell. The rigging system snapped, causing the light to fall. This is a dangerous situation. It's not only archaic lights, but an archaic rigging system itself. I would be happy to give you a tour of our stage to actually see how archaic it is. And this has been since December 19th of 2022, has been a specific line item on my reoccurring facilities agenda every Monday to have it replaced. We got a quote, 150, and they said it's school's responsibility. That does not include the fire curtain that expired in 2012 that is torn and does not work and would not stop a fire had one of those lights caught. Our lights are also two-pronged. They're not grounded. And so as a result of that, escalating that with capital to address this, I'm giving capital some time to figure out how they're responding. After them, they are to have actually a theater stage company come out, audit the safety of our stage to see what level of what needs to be done to it, and then what are the next steps for that system. That happened on Wednesday. I believe it was like Tuesday night. On Wednesday morning, I brought all the engineers in and asked them to take down all rigging, all systems. All the lights came down, everything came down. If you went to the performance on Thursday or Friday, you actually see in the back, the 3 rows of lights were actually in the back. So there weren't any risk to any of our performers for any further lights to fall. It is absolutely unacceptable. At this point, I have a problem saying this publicly. As an LSC, please pay attention to this, and I may need your help to help escalate this because it needs to be addressed. It's unacceptable. We are a performing arts school. We have an amazing performances going on right now. We have an amazing drama department, instrumental department, choral department. It's just not acceptable. Number 2, our parking lot is collapsing. So all of and this has also been a part of my facilities agenda. The flooding that's been taking place in our basement was because of collapsing pipes. Our new engineer, chief engineer, has just really been on point, Mr. Cantori. Immediately got some capital in to get the local plumbing. That's why you see all the new grass, and has been constantly working to have it fixed. At some point, it still has to leave, and that goes out into piping, which goes out into our parking lot. All of the piping in our parking lot is collapsing. And so we have now sinkholes throughout our parking lot. You'll see Alderman Smith's old barriers are actually go over a hole like this next to a sewer pipe. And you see the dips everywhere. That's about a $3 million job to redo the parking lot. And so these are the things that I want us, if we're going to be fiscally responsible as a district, and if we are going to be the hub of a high school within Region 16 per facilities per the district, it's not fiscally responsible to do a $3 million parking lot, do a $500,000 gym, to do a da without thinking about some of the long-term benefits of what needs to move forward. That's the second part. The other was the fence. We talked through it. We had somebody else come out, and looking forward to moving forward with that as well.
Is the alderman aware of these issues?
Yes, he was the alderman was helping actually with trying to get the fix to the parking lot last summer. And it fell through. He's aware. I'll re-up it again. The stage lights, I'll say no. Doesn't know about the stage, but does know about the parking. But I'll up it to him again.
And what about like our state senators and things like that?
One of I reached out actually. Yes, because there's I heard from one of our one of our neighborhood associations reached out to me and say, hey, they came to our meeting, said there's some funds available. I called and have asked to set up a meeting to see how we could potentially use some of those funds that seem to be available. I have yet to have the meeting yet, but I did reach out. Thank you.
Thanks. Student life. Nothing else. Okay.
They really haven't allowed.
Public participation. Public. Anything online?
There's one, but we also.
Oh. Hi.
We're doing, guys. Hi, I'm Eric Lascano. I'm a wellness teacher at Lincoln Park High School. Two things really. One was planned. The second one kind of came about as I was listening to you guys. Really, I think I'm a candidate for LSC for teacher rep for moving forward for next year, and just kind of sitting here listening, I just kind of reflect on why you're sitting here right now as an LSC. Just because sitting here in the audience and seeing LSC members get up and leave, seeing LSC members not be here present, remember that like you're representing the groups that voted for you, and you're representing the best interest of Lincoln Park High School. That's why you're here. The meetings were set at the beginning of the school year, so I think that you should plan appropriately to be here. Like that's your duty. People voted for us. So to see people get up and leave is a little disheartening, because it just like where's your interest? Is your interest at Lincoln Park High School and making it better, or is it elsewhere? And then I guess that's part of the reason that I'm running for LC, because my heart is with Lincoln Park High School. And as a coach, you always say like the best ability is availability. So you gotta be. The one reason I came here, and it was touched on earlier, was testing. And I think some people know where this is going. As a wellness teacher, especially in the freshman building, we use the gyms every day. That is our classroom. On March 7th, we were kicked out. On March 11th, we were kicked out. On March 12th, we were kicked out. On March 13th, we were kicked out. On March 15th, we will be kicked out. On April 18th, we will be kicked out. On April 22nd, we will also be kicked out. That is 7 days just for mock testing. That's not the real test. So if we correspond with that, that's 14 days. That's almost 3 weeks of instruction that we will not be in our classroom for instruction. I personally love teaching. That's what I do. It's what I went to college for. That's what I master's degree for. I love working with the kids. And 3 weeks out of school year, I can't provide proper instruction because I don't have a classroom. And I'm really just going to speak for the freshman team here, because that's who it's been affecting the most. And this is excluding assemblies, counselor visits, surveys that we have to give in class. Being a wellness teacher is awesome, because we see every single kid. We see every single kid, excluding kids that are in JROTC. We see everybody. And so the impact that we could have on these kids is monumental. And I will I will debate and argue with anyone that PE can also be maybe the most valuable class the kid takes at Lincoln Park High School. Sportsmanship, teamwork, physical activity, working together. And so I'll have that argument with anybody every day. But I guess in alternatives, okay, and I know we've had alternatives before.
Mr.
Use-
Lozano, I forgot to warn at the beginning that there's 2 minutes, so
Where am I at now?
probably over 2. So
Can I have 30 seconds?
yeah.
So some alternatives that we've discussed before, weekends and non-attendance days for the large exams, alternate testing sites, maybe some college campuses or college facilities. We were just talking about the auditorium, maybe attaching desks to the auditorium chairs. I know Dr. Stelmer, in your budget report, you talked about funds for after school. Like, what does that look like after 318? Maybe we could use some of that to pay staff to come in on weekends to proctor some of these exams so that we could have classrooms for 3 weeks. And so those were some of the solutions that we came up with, and hopefully they'll be considered. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody online?
There's a May.
That rain?
Hello?
Hi, could you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Amy Gannon. I'm a freshman. And I just want to introduce myself because I'm running for LSC student rep. I was on the LSC at my old school last year, so I have some experience on the LSC, but I've been listening the whole meeting, so like I've definitely learned a lot throughout. I would say like my platform here would just be to make LP feel like a home for students so that they are like more willing to engage in schools and in the school and all aspects of just making LP like a comfortable space for all students, that they're more willing to like participate in class. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Good luck. Anyone else?
I do not see any other hands.
Were there Q&As that we needed to address?
There was a statement by Patty Lapidus. Sorry if I mispronounced her name. The issue is that teachers are not entering grades, and we don't care who the specific teacher is.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
Nope. Okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I have one question. Can someone share, I don't know where they are, the LSC vote from 2020 of us increasing the spending? Help me with my language
It
for
should be in the minutes. It would be
from
in the
back in
minutes.
2020. Is
Should
that
be.
where I go?
It's
But
and the bylaw and the problem with the bylaws, they need to be on they need to be on their webpage. And when we have our July meeting, we have to edit. Our bylaws are set. We have to approve to edit them or change them. And that's part, like, we probably should have done a better job of going. I never noticed the $50 mark.
Isn't it like every time that a new LSC comes on that you're supposed to approve because this is back from 2020, so.
So the thing is, it's optional to update, like approve and update a new bylaw, but you have to have a bylaw. Organization.
Right, we have them, but we don't have anything specific.
Yeah, we got like a written bylaws.
Yeah, we do.
No, I know. I know that there are written bylaws that the LSC puts out, right? A template, but
We have an edited version of.
so where is that?
Peter had it, but it's not. I don't see it on. I didn't see it online myself, but I want to look at it. So that's why we need to we have moved on without editing and reviewing. We did, and we need to go back and we need to make sure it's done right, because it wasn't updated with the increased number of students. There was an editing error of 1 million, which is not realistic. It was at 10,000 that we set was the standard, because that's kind of the normal functioning of a budget. But we need to go back to that. We need to edit it. We need to approve it consistently, and all returning members July 1st. Even if we edit it, we still need to review it and look at it and actually pay attention, put it on our webpage. These aren't our bylaws.
It's just confusing to me, I guess, because if it was 10,000, then why didn't we vote for a 25,000?
Because Brad is better at this than I am, and maybe Laura, you could speak to it, but my understanding was student fees was not something that needed to be. We didn't need to vote on student fees. I remember you bringing it up and saying you're bringing this to us as like a courtesy that you
Okay.
don't need, that you didn't need the approval of the LSC for that.
Which is why the point we brought up, but like, let's scrutinize it more. Let's go in it. That's totally great. Suggestion for next step.
All right, so it didn't have anything to do with the bylaws then, because
Not-
it's always circling back to that for some reason that we approved, when we approved what you say, the
Funding.
student fees, that somehow Brad kept saying it's like, and that really, I'm confused. A purchase order could be taken out and we didn't need that approval versus student fees, which would be a school check or.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's like when we, for example, when we approve a fundraiser, let's say they raise $100,000 in this fundraiser and they state in the fundraiser, it's to buy a bus and other things. We have already previously we approved the fundraiser and how it would be spent already. You've already you're laying out how funds are going to be used.
Right.
So within our
Yeah.
fees, and this is the question, I think it's a good conversation of the LSC to scrutinize this more. But when we lay out our fees and we say it's for these listed items,
et cetera.
et cetera, et
Then that-
cetera,
It's covered
So
under the-
essentially, that's a blank check then, that he can do whatever he wants with that, with the student fees, right? Without us having to approve.
So again, I mean, I think that with the student fees we were, I believe that what's going on is it was fully transparent, right? It was a topic of conversation, so everyone would be aware. So it's not like a blank check. Everybody was part of that conversation. We had a conversation.
But we didn't vote for it though.
Well, because
Because
I
we didn't
think
have
during
to.
that LSC meeting, we recognized that it wasn't an item that we should be voting.
But we did. I believe we
No, we
did
didn't.
vote
No.
for it.
No,
I
we
think we need
didn't.
to review the minutes.
I did.
Okay.
We haven't. We didn't vote for it.
Because we didn't need to.
Right,
But
that's my
he,
question.
right, we didn't need to vote for it because it was student fees, because he has the discretion to do what he wants within that purview of student fees. But he brought it to us as a transparency thing. I want to bring this to you all. Here's what I want to do. I want you to see all of this.
I understand, but I don't need your vote.
Correct. He did not need our.
All right. Just
As I understood. Okay.
Mhm.
but it doesn't mean the next steps. I think that's what we're all.
Okay. Anyone else? Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Ted, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, nice to see you too.
Yeah.
Miss Kay.
Be careful. You're not like.
Hi, how are you? What's going on?
Oh, I want to get home and get my kids.